Yes, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Grigin, we're sorry that we weren't able to finish your evidence yesterday, but you'll remember that we were looking together at various documents that you had been involved in calls following the Childline report, the report of knives being carried to school in the incident of the 8th of October. Can we pick that up with the next of the documents in the series that involved you, I think? And this is the CAMS referral, which I think you made on the 10th of October 2019. Sarah, it's RIN 508, please. And I'll just let you get your bearings from the front sheet of the document so you can see, I'm sure you're familiar with having made, I'm sure, several of them, but you'll see the type of document that this is, going to the single point of access for CAMS Alderhay. And if we could go to page 2, please. Sarah, could we enlarge the main body of the text, the reason for referral that's in the middle of the page, please? So we can see here, can't we, the sort of matters that you were bringing to mental health services attention. So you give the background to the contact with Childline first. And you note that when AR was spoken to, second line, about this, he admitted that he brought the knife in previously. When asked why, he said it was being pushed around and that he would have used it to stab someone. So that's a contemporaneous report, I think, by you, making clear not just what AR had said, but of the obvious seriousness of that and your concern arising from it.
That is correct.
And you go on to note that AR appeared to lack emotion during this time, even though he knew the potential consequences of carrying a knife and using it on someone. Members of staff very concerned about the mental state, and then the words that were used were extremely disproportionate response to incidents in school that were under investigation. You refer to AR having hit another pupil and receiving a detention, and also overheard saying that's why teachers get murdered. I think those are two separate incidents, aren't they, I think, in fact?
They are, yes.
Yeah. AR dismissed this concern, saying he was referring to a comment from another pupil. AR said that this and bringing the knife into school were not linked at all. However, it only adds to the concerns of the school regarding AR and why he needs support and quickly. So looking at that as a whole, you also detail, I should mention, that you had got Alfonso's consent for the referral to be made, even though AR was suspended by that time. So for the Range High School, certainly at this stage, after the 8th of October event, a prompt referral was made detailing the gravity of your concerns to the mental health services. Would you agree?
I would agree, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. That can come down from the screen, Sarah. We don't need to go to it, but in your statement, and it's apparent from the records, for your note, it's LCC 001309. The response, I think, to this referral at this stage was that they wouldn't be taking AR on, but would suggest referral to Targeted Youth Prevention Service. What was your view of that response?
I was both surprised and disappointed at the response and the matter being closed so quickly.
So the matter being closed so quickly to mental health, presumably for the reasons that we've just been exploring, the gravity of the concerns, wanting to stab someone and being cold and emotionless about it. Would that be right?
That is correct, yes.
Against a background of other concerning comments?
Yes.
What about the Targeted Youth Prevention Service? Were you familiar with their work?
I wasn't familiar with their work, but it was explained in the reply what their remit was, and I didn't think that that was a suitable referral.
And was that because that service seemed to be more related to gang violence?
Yes, and also it mentioned personal development as well, which I was more concerned about AR's mental state at that time.
Thank you. And then I think the last in the series of documents, which is not as such a referral, but it is a record of a further phone call on the 14th of October 2019. So Sarah, could we have LCC 001894? And could the middle text please be enlarged? So we see that this is a record of a phone call that's incoming from you. And this is, I think, PC McNamee's record of it in the context of the MASH referral. So end of last year, concerned to AR's behaviour in lessons. Dad thought ASD had meeting with Senko, no signs, and I'll come back to that. Hoping for improvement in year 9, multiple teachers raising concerns was quite often AR's reaction to detentions that was concerning. Then there's a reference to Friday the 20th of September was an issue where AR punched another student who was tapping on the head, so punched him in the face. Again, were you there trying to indicate that that whatever had gone on between these two boys, and we explored it earlier, but that what one boy had done was tap AR on the head as it was reported, and what AR had done in response was to punch the other boy in the face?
I can't remember whether he punched him in the face, but he had reacted to being hit on the back of the head during the lesson. This was then raised about the other boy being involved in tormenting AR, as reported at least. School monitored all of this to keep boys apart and monitor the situation, no more reports. But when the boy was spoken to in relation to the incident, he made it out that it was AR who'd been annoying him first. Others involved were happy to have mediation, but AR didn't want that. His reaction seemed to be out of proportion. And there's, again, second reference to punching the other pupil. When asked why he brought in the knife, very calm, saying he would stab him, no remorse, was not to scare him off, and said it was to stab him. And again, although this is not a verbatim note of the call, would you agree that there's sufficient detail in here to make absolutely clear that you were flagging up that this wasn't just, in inverted commas, just a case of carrying knives to school in bravado or self-defense? As reported, it was to stab the boy concerned. That is correct, yes.
Again, reporting to Fed Up, AR reporting with the other boy allegedly pushing him around. Again, school feel this is out of proportion. No threats to life were made to AR or to AR's family, and AR stated that he was ready to stab the other boy. Yes?
That's correct.
And there's a reference to the teachers get murdered after the detention comment, and AR's excuse or contextualization of that. And then CAM's referral, general concerns for AR's reactions and rationalization. And then it says, again, no mention of any special education needs concerns. Can I just use that document? That can come down from the screen, thank you. Just to pick up on that last comment. Obviously, you have raised the mental health concerns. What about the aspects of no special education needs concerns? Had you had any concerns within the school about autism by this stage?
Not relating to autism, the investigation that we completed was in relation to ADHD, but the results, as previously mentioned, when they came back to us, indicated poor behaviour as opposed to ADHD. And from what I believe is the assistant Senko was then going to explore an ASD diagnosis or the possibility of an ASD diagnosis. Do you know where anything in relation to that had reached?
No, sorry.
There's a lot of information that we've been looking at in terms of the Range High School pushing information out to other agencies. It might be thought appropriately after this event. But we're going to hear evidence today, I think, that on the very first admissions meeting that AR had at the Acorn School, the deputy head there formed the immediate impression that AR may have autism spectrum disorder. I just wonder whether you have any observations on that another school coming in on their first meeting picked up on that. Do you think that possibly the Range High School may have been slow to pick up autism traits?
No, but as I said, the Assistant Senko had discussed the possibility of that, so I wouldn't say that we were slow on picking that up. That would have been the next steps in the process.
One of the other issues, and what one has to remember the context, that there's been an escalation in AR's behaviour, but then a very sudden, more egregious act leading to permanent exclusion. So one shouldn't forget that context. But one of the other aspects that the Acorn School had to grapple with quite quickly was education, health and care plan. Had any thinking started at the Range School in relation to an EHCP?
Not to my knowledge, no.
It is perhaps a counsel of perfection, but even after the incident in October and accepting that there was an exclusion, might it have been best practice to start the EHCP process at that stage with an eye to what was obviously going to be difficult for the ongoing schooling in the months to come?
That would have been something I would have to have spoken to with the Assistant Senko. This series of events happened very quickly in, as you said, a very short space of time.
What would be the typical trigger that would start an EHCP, or does it vary a lot?
It can vary a lot. A lot of the time it would be feedback and concerns raised by staff, and that being brought to the attention of the SEN team, who would then conduct further investigations as they were the experts in that area.
Reflecting now, do you think that the pattern of behaviour, albeit that there was a sharp upturn with the final act in October, do you think that that pattern of behaviour might have led to an earlier EHCP process being started at the Range?
Well, as I said, the process was very quick, and the permanent exclusion was very quick as well. Had he have stayed, then that might have been something that we would have explored.
Thank you. I want to turn briefly to prevent, please. As the designated safety lead, presumably, you deal with it in your statement, the circumstances in which a prevent referral might be made and what prevent was for would have been, I think, familiar to you.
That is correct, yes.
Did you give other teachers at the school training in prevent?
Prevent was covered as part of the annual safeguarding training at the school.
What did you understand the scope of prevent to be, and in particular when an education establishment should appropriately make a prevent referral?
The prevent duty has a clear, specific focus, which is to prevent people being drawn into terrorism. And as a school, we were expected to have due regard in relation to people who could be radicalised and brought into terrorism, so that if we did have specific concerns, we would raise them using the appropriate reporting system through the police and local authority.
Thank you. And I don't expect you to be able to recite a statutory definition, But what was your working understanding of what terrorism meant in this context?
As you say, I'm sorry I can't give you an
I don't
actual
expect
definition.
you to, but just tell us what you would have had in your head.
Terror being acts of violence and against acts against British values.
Did you understand that although the technical definition of terrorism has a reference to certain ideological purposes, that the purpose of PREVENT extended to dealing with school shootings, school massacres, even if they weren't inspired by political reasons or religious reasons or racial reasons? Did you understand that even in the absence of an ideology, mass acts of violence against schools in particular fell within the remit of PREVENT?
Yes, as the PREVENT duty says, there isn't one single model for how a person can be radicalised and drawn into terrorism. In fact, there are numerous early indicators of what a person could be drawn into terrorism. So school shootings, etc., that would be something that would raise a concern and certainly be considered for a PREVENT referral.
I think in terms of your personal knowledge, the reference that AR had made to the Manchester Arena attack in the context of jihad was not something that you personally were aware of until after the exclusion, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
But you would accept that that was something which was known to the Range High School as a body, as an organisation?
Only when it was brought to my attention in December.
Yes, but it was brought to your attention, was it not, by the RE teacher who had mentioned it to your predecessor as DSL?
Yeah, the head of RE had said it had been referred to the previous DSL in June of that year.
So, if I can use this phrase, that's why I emphasise you personally didn't know it, but the school as an organisation did know about it because the head of RE knew about it and had reported it to your predecessor as DSL, yes?
That is what she said, yes.
So there was that report, and there was also the comment about that's why teachers get murdered in relation to detention. Had there been any consideration prior to the attack, not the attack, but the carrying of knives report, Childline, in October 2019, had there been any consideration of making a PREVENT referral prior to October 2019, arising out of those matters?
No, because the comment that was made in the RA lesson about the jihad and the Manchester bombing was not brought to my attention at that time.
I appreciate it wasn't brought to your attention, but I'm asking about safeguarding at the school. So far as you know, had the school considered a PREVENT referral earlier?
Not to my knowledge, no.
When you then add in the aspect of AR coming to school with a knife, admitting that he'd done that on 10 occasions, with the intention that he was talking about, when you add in that to the mix, appreciating, of course, that the Manchester Arena attack was in the context of a school discussion about jihad, and that the bringing the knife admission, but with an intention to stab somebody, seemed to be targeted at an individual. Was there then any consideration to you making a PREVENT referral?
No, which is why a PREVENT referral wasn't made. My concerns at the time were focused on AR's mental state, which is why the referrals were made to CAMS and social services.
That I think, was your thinking at the time. And again, in fairness to you, I think the jihad comment for you personally came later on after the exclusion. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
So if perhaps the three most concerning aspects of AR's behaviour, there were obviously other incidents, but the three most concerning in terms of this area may have been a reference to teachers getting murdered, the reference to the Manchester Arena attacker and it being a good battle, and the bringing the knives into school on multiple occasions with an intention to stab. You personally didn't have all three of those pieces. You only had two at the time of the exclusion. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
When you reflect, you've explained that your thinking at the time and why you didn't make a prevent referral. When you reflect back on it now, do you think that the Range School, if it had put all of that information together, might have made a referral in October 2019?
If all of the information would have been at my disposal, as I said in my statement, I may have considered a prevent referral. But I would have also wanted to have gathered more information, such as documentary evidence from school work, school books, feedback from teachers, internet search history, etc. Because, as the prevent duty states, you should ensure that this is a referral for prevent and not consider other types of referral.
Thank you. It's fair of me, I think, to close this part of questioning off, to note that in terms of any question of causation, did that make any difference? Of course, we know that the Acorn School did make a referral, and indeed the information that you provided to the Acorn School went into that referral. I think you're now aware of that.
I am, yes.
So although no prevent referral was made by the Range High School, the Range High School's information got collated into the referral that the Acorns made, I think first attempting to make it on the 5th of December.
That is correct, yes.
Can we turn then to the extent of information sharing with the Acorns School? We know, we heard from Mr. McGarry, the process for this, the local authority placed AR at the Acorns School. There was a duty for him to start education there within, I think, 6 days. If we look at LCC 001415, please, and could we have page 2, Sarah? This is the 21st of November 2019 email from Ms. Hodson to you. And we can see Mrs. Hodson saying, good morning, had a child on our roll, AR, permanently excluded from yourselves in October after he disclosed to Childline that he'd been bringing a knife into school with the intention of using it on another pupil. We have serious safeguarding concerns with regard to AR, fixating on another student in his class and is saying that he's bossing him around and bullying him. Staff are being vigilant but have seen no evidence of this. That pattern, AR claiming that he was being bossed around or bullied by another pupil, but AR then fixating on that other student in circumstances where the new school had seen no evidence that AR was in fact being bullying. Presumably that would have been familiar to you as traits of AR's behaviour.
Yeah, that was consistent with AR's behaviour being fixated on one particular student at our school, yes.
And likewise, the next sentence, Alfonso has contacted the school to raise his concerns that AR is being targeted like the other boy in the other school. Yes? So in terms of AR's father's response to this, the same pattern was continuing of AR's father suggesting that AR was in fact being bullied and that was the problem.
Yes, that is correct.
There's then the information from Ms. Hodson that during his ICT lesson, AR was searching school shootings. Now, that's obviously a reference to what was happening at the Acorn School. again, father informed of this, rang back and said it was untrue. And then there's the request for information. I'd be extremely grateful if you could supply any further information about the final incident or the events leading up to it. We haven't received the head teacher's report. But the reference to the head teacher's report, would that be a specific type of document, or is that more generic?
I'm not sure what that's referring to. I just remember submitting a document, a report to Lancashire, which is detailing the permanent exclusion.
All right. The email goes on, we haven't received the head teacher's report or any other supporting documentation to help us. I've attached the only information we were given. So that's a concern being raised by Ms. Hodson about a lack of information transfer in terms of what they've received. So that raises a question, would you agree, as to what information had come from the Range High School and what had come from the local authority. That doesn't seem to be appropriate on the face of this email.
Not on the face of the email, but following this email, we subsequently sent the information to the Acorns.
Well, I'm going to come to that. So if we could go, again, they're in reverse order in the usual way, Sarah. So if we could look at the bottom of page 1, please. Ms. Grugin, your email in response, please find attached information forwarded to Lancashire several weeks ago. Please contact me if you wish to discuss any further. So contemporaneously, what you appeared to be saying is a prompt attachment of information, but you were saying contemporaneously that you'd already forwarded that information to Lancashire, yes?
That is correct, yes.
And if we can go up to the top email, please, Sarah, I think we see that Mrs. Hodson's reply in relation to this, 26th of February, was to say, just to confirm that I've received this information, thank you for your help. So one notes there that, appreciating that you weren't on CPOMs, but what had been transferred on the 22nd of November seemed to satisfy Ms. Hodson that she now had the sort of information, the detailed information she would have expected. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree.
So again, looking at it, with apologies for the lawyer's way of looking at it, but in terms of causation, whatever may have gone on prior to the 22nd of November, the detailed safeguarding information from the Range High School does seem to have reached the Acorn School, possibly with a bit of delay.
Yes.
Yeah. We have available to us in relation to this LCC 001393. And there's a very short email from yourself to the Pupil Access South Exclusions team, just saying, please find attached the information requested regarding the above-named student. And we note the date of that as the 11th of October. So it seems to be prompt attaching of some information. What appears from the disclosure to be attached to that is LCC 001394, please. Which is a standard form, pupil exclusion notification form, probably something that's reasonably familiar to you.
It wasn't at the time, but I do recall this information, yes.
All right. So there's some biographical information filled out. So if we look at page 2, we can see that the exclusion details use of a weapon. AR admitted to bringing in a knife to school on 10 occasions. He said it was to stab someone, and you mark continued below. Is that your handwriting?
That is my handwriting, yes.
There was a significant lack of emotion and awareness with regards to AR carrying a knife and the implications in using one and risk posed to himself and the school community. So again,
the headline message very much the same as other documents that we'd looked at. But what this isn't is the detailed CPOMS type or house log type of information, the details of the safeguarding. On the face of it, that doesn't seem to have been sent to the authority with this email on the 11th of October. Was it sent separately, do you know?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. As far as I was aware, I'd sent all of the relevant information off to Lancashire and in good time.
Mr. Turner from the authority said that the expectation in relation to, apart from certain technical reports such as this, going to the authority, the expectation would that there would be a school-to-school transfer of safeguarding information. Was that your experience?
That was not my experience, no.
You were relatively new to the lead safeguarding role. It might be thought to be something of a concern, however, that there isn't complete clarity about how it's done, because that the handing over of safeguarding information would seem to be an absolutely critical part of any school transition, but particularly one where violence has been involved. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
And does the fact that you have one understanding and the senior responsible officer at the local authority for education has a different understanding, does that suggest to you a certain lack of clarity about what the processes around safeguarding transfers should be?
Not a general lack of clarity of understanding, because as a school we would always forward, under normal circumstances, safeguarding information to the school that a student was then moving to. In this situation, we were forwarding information on to the local authority because we weren't aware at that time what school AR was moving to.
One possible explanation in relation to this is that the school or you personally had intended to pass the safeguarding information on to the local authority, but that got overlooked. Do you think that that is possible?
I don't think that's possible. I'm sure that we sent the correct information over.
And in fairness to you, I took you to that email where, at least in November, your impression was that it had been sent a couple of weeks ago.
That's correct, yes.
And would you have been sending it at that time because you didn't know the school to which AR would be going?
Yes, as I said, under normal circumstances, we would forward any relevant safeguarding information on securely to the school that the student was moving.
So you did understand the normal pattern would be school-to-school transfer of the safeguarding?
Normal pattern, yes.
Yeah. The other explanation is that all of this safeguarding information was sent to the local authority and they didn't pass it on to the Acorns.
That is a possibility, yes.
Thank you. Turning then to the hockey stick incident with the knife being carried in December. My own friend Mr. Boyle asked Mr. McGarry about that. So I'll take this relatively briefly, but I think you were in school that day on duty?
That is correct, yes.
You set out in your statement, sir, for your note, paragraph 48, we don't need to have it up, that you were told that AR had gained access to the school. If it matters, how did you come to learn that?
A colleague informed me of the incident and I was asked to go to Mr. McGarry's office.
So you did that and you found out what had happened. You set out the chronology in your statement, paragraphs 48, 49, 50. The police were called. And is this right, that when AR was questioned, he told them that he brought the hockey stick to kill the student he accused of bullying him. And if that didn't work, he would have used the knife.
That is correct, yes.
And he was as blunt and direct about it as that, was he?
He was, yes.
If we pick it up at paragraph 51 of your statement, that's page 8, please, Sarah.
you say that by AR's own admission, this was not the same student he intended to harm, and his explanation for assaulting him with the hockey stick, that's the other boy, not the intended target, was that he could not find the boy he was looking for. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Don't use the name, but the boy that was assaulted, I think, so far as the school records is concerned, had no history of any difficulty with AR whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
And was a likeable, well-behaved student who was just walking down the corridor.
Absolutely, yes.
And you detail it in paragraph 52, but just tell us it in your own words. What was AR's demeanour on this occasion?
Again, very similar to the incident on the 8th of October when we questioned him about the concern raised by the police and we'd searched his belongings. He was again very calm, very matter of fact. When we'd asked him why he brought the knife in, he said, to kill him.
And apart from the obvious concern of that lack of emotion, the coldness and what he was saying, an intent to kill, as you deal here in paragraph 52, that I think there was added concern for you because this was a change, is that right? That when AR had got into trouble previously, earlier in his school career in year 8, he would display frustration and emotional responses. He wasn't just calm and unemotive.
No, the frustration stemmed from the lack of progress, in his opinion, in relation to the alleged bullying.
Yeah.
So that was the only time I saw any emotion from him, really.
But it looks from your statement as though you were saying that during year 8, when he was involved in altercations with another student, he displayed frustration and emotional responses. So a different response to the now cold and not getting upset, not showing any frustration, just being cold and somewhat calculated.
Yes, it was a very different response.
And the phrase that you use is that this bothered you because it was a stark contrast to his previous demeanour earlier in the year. Is that right?
Yes, in relation to the frustration he displayed.
Thank you. If we look on the same page, at bottom of the page, paragraph 55, you give the context to learning about the Manchester arena attack comment. So on the 13th of December, you emailed the deputy head of Acorns to apprise her of a discussion you'd had with the head of RE the previous day, and I've touched upon that already. Paragraph 56, I was told that the RE teacher taught a lesson on jihad, looking at the rules of jihad and asking the students whether the Manchester arena bombing was jihad. Other students responded no, which was the expected response. AR's response was that, quote, it was a good battle though, end quote. She spoke to him at the end of the lesson and asked him what he meant by this response. AR stated that his response was from the viewpoint of the suicide bomber, and those views were not his own. So again, there is some context to that. It's not a statement about jihad and the Manchester arena bombing and being a good battle said out of the blue in conversation. It's in the context of a class, and one keeps that in mind. But would you agree, even in that context, that that was a concerning comment?
Yes, that was a concerning comment.
And the head of RE had done the right thing in reporting it to your predecessor as the DSL?
Absolutely, yes.
Had that been recorded anywhere at the time?
Not to my knowledge, no. I only recorded it when it came to my attention.
Yep. And would you accept that that should have been, a comment of that kind should have been recorded, at the very least in the House log?
Yes, because it seemed to have been sent via email at the time.
We know, however, you deal with it in a couple of places in your statement, but one of them is paragraph 55, which we still have on screen, that you then promptly did pass that information on.
Yes, I felt it was relevant, so as soon as that information came to my knowledge, I shared that as soon as I could with Acorns.
Thank you. The timing of this, I think, helps to piece a jigsaw together, because we know that it was the 5th of December when the Acorns school sought to make the first referral, which didn't refer to this information. It referred to the other safeguarding information from the range, but didn't refer to this. But we then see in the professionals meeting, the strategy meeting on the 17th of December, that this was raised. You attended that meeting, and this came to the knowledge of the Acorn School between making the referral and the strategy meeting on the 17th of December. Would you agree?
That is correct, yes.
Turning to that strategy meeting then on the 17th of December, you attended that meeting, notwithstanding that by then AR had been permanently excluded and had started at the new school. It may sound obvious, but what was the purpose of your attending?
It was to support the professionals meeting by providing a background to AR, providing a history up until that point where he'd been permanently excluded, and then the incident in December where he'd come back onto school without permission and used the hockey stick.
Thank you. And in terms of your own proactivity, what one notes that this is now 2 months after the exclusion, but you still thought it was appropriate for you to attend?
Yes, it was.
And obviously being able to give that background from the previous school would have been helpful for that meeting. Did it also reflect to an extent the degree of concerns that you had about how serious it was?
Yes, sorry, could you just repeat that again, sorry?
Obviously, you being able to provide this information would be helpful to the meeting, but did the fact that you did attend in person, even though the exclusion had been some 2 months ago, did that also reflect how seriously you thought the situation was?
Yes.
If you can't remember, you should say so. Do you have a recollection of the nature of that meeting? Was it a meeting where it was cordial and professional and matters went smoothly? Was it a difficult meeting? Do you remember what the tone of it was?
I don't remember there being any. It wasn't a difficult meeting. I thought it was professional and cordial, from my knowledge, yes.
Thank you. Do you have any view as to how much progress was made at that meeting?
Not in that initial meeting, no. I think it was more fact-finding and information sharing.
Thank you. You attended, I think, also the follow-up meeting on the 6th of January 2020, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
From that meeting, do you remember what understanding you gained about the PREVENT decision-making process?
No, I can't remember that, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Just a few further matters. You had further involvement in February 2021 with Instagram post, I think it was, in relation to Colonel Gaddafi coming to your attention. If we just have paragraph 60 of your statement on screen, please. It's page 9. So the inquiry asked you if you could add any detail to that. You set out, paragraph 61, that you contacted the deputy head, again, Mrs. Hodson, to inform them that AR had been in contact with some students from the Range High School via Instagram, and they brought these posts to my attention. Just pausing there, you say there they brought those posts to your attention. Was it more than one student?
I think it was one student, but it was 2 separate Instagram messages that were brought to my attention.
Can you remember what the other one was, or were they both Gaddafi? Or?
They both related to Colonel Gaddafi.
6.2 say the Instagram stories mentioned Gaddafi. I considered it pertinent to share this with the Acorns School in light of the information they'd previously provided regarding the referrals, including Prevent, that had been made to various authorities. I don't think anyone would suggest that that was anything other than an appropriate thing to do, to share that with AR's then current school. Did you hear anything more about that yourself?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Were you contacted, whether by the Acorns or by Prevent or by anybody else, asking you if you could find out any more information about it or speak further to the boy concerned to see what else was known about what he was posting on Instagram?
No, not to my knowledge. It was just an email reply from Acorns acknowledging receipt of the information and that AR was still a member of the school community.
Did you do anything yourself in relation to the boy bringing this post to your attention? I don't want you to guess if you can't remember, but did you have any conversations along the lines of, has he been posting anything else? Is this the only thing that you've seen?
I can't remember, to be honest. I just remember taking the information and passing that on.
Extremely difficult, of course, not to be infected with hindsight, but against the other backgrounds, do you think it might have been a good idea to probe just a little bit further, even though you hadn't been asked to do so, with that boy to see if, for example, he had the history of what AR had been posting on Instagram?
Possibly at the time. I just remember taking that information and passing that on. I can't remember the details of the actual conversation, just I remember thanking the person for bringing it to my attention.
Presumably, if Prevent had asked you to do that in a careful way with the boy concerned, you'd have been perfectly happy to do so.
More than happy to, yes.
Can I just ask about risk assessments? Was there a set process for risk assessments for pupils who were considered to be a risk of violence to other pupils at the range?
Well, there would have been risk assessments for people who we had concerns about, yes.
Prior to the Childline incident, had matters with AR progressed to a stage where any kind of bespoke risk assessment was done on him?
No, not at that time.
So should we understand that so far as the range school is concerned, if the Childline incident hadn't been so very serious, and for a reason he'd been suspended, for example, for a period of time but come back to the school, you would then have done a form of risk assessment?
At some point, a risk assessment would have been done if his behaviour had not improved, yes.
From the meetings that you attended on the 17th of December and the 6th of January, who did you understand to be the lead agency taking forward the assessment and management of the risk to others that AR posed?
I don't think that was evidently clear to me, but I would assume that that would have been the social services who had organised and led the meeting.
So not clear to you from the meeting, but your assumption would be social services?
That would be my assumption, yes.
Mr. Gregorian, you were kind enough in your statement to set out some details in relation to improvements that have been made. I appreciate you're no longer there at the range. So for your note, it's paragraph 89 onwards. You're careful, I'm just going to summarise it at a high level, you're careful, I think, to flag that some of the improvements are in relation to entirely other incidents and not relating to AR at all. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
One aspect that you do raise, and so just for your note, it's paragraph 93, and I think this was touched on briefly by Mr. McGarry, is that the range did bring in, I think within your time, a better automatic door closing system because what AR had managed to do in the hockey stick attack was tailgate in behind a boy who was going through gates that open and closed with a pass.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. I'm just going to look to my left.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr.
Thank you,
Cregan.
sir.
You're now free to go.
Thank you, sir.
So I think the timings are such that we should move straight to our next witness, if
Certainly.
may, who's Miss Lewis.
Swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lewis. Please have a seat. Can I ask you straight away to make sure you keep your voice up? There are microphones, but
Yeah, will
if
do.
you whisper, we won't hear.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Boyle.
Could you give your full name, please?
My name is Janet Lewis.
Thank you. Could we have on screen, please, MERP 30722? Do you recognise that as the statement that you gave to the police investigation
Yes,
after
that's
the attack?
correct.
Thank you. We see it's dated the 28th of August 2024. In your statement that you prepared for the inquiry, you correct some of the dates.
Yes.
But subject to those corrections, is this true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is, yes.
Thank you. And if we could have that next statement up, please. It's LCC 001774. Thank you. We see that dated as the 5th of September 2025. And is that statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Can I start by asking you about your background and career? Is this right? You started a career in education in 1985 as a teaching assistant in a special school for children with severe learning difficulties.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. You joined the Acorns in September 2009 as a teaching assistant.
That's correct, yes.
And you've held various roles while at the Acorns, including Assistant Special Educational Needs Coordinator or Assistant SENCO.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you. From March 2019, you took on the role of Designated Safeguard Lead. Is that right?
That's correct. I was the backup DSL, yes.
Thank you. And can you just briefly explain what that role entailed?
Basically, the role entailed overseeing the CPOMS, the Child Protection Online Management System, which basically, if anybody has any safeguarding issues, any member of staff, they log it and it comes to the DSL plus the backup DSLs. Also, the Pathways Coordinator was also attendance. I did some attendance work, and also I did some assistant Senko work as well with the young people with special needs.
Thank you. Can you just help us with what's meant by safeguarding in designated safeguard lead?
Designated safeguarding lead is basically the person responsible for the overall safeguarding of children and young people within the school. They're also there to sort of oversee if any staff have any safeguarding issues regarding young people, if they make disclosures or anything like that. And basically you log it, and then you sort of look and see if you need to sort of refer it on to other agencies.
And can I understand when we talk about safeguarding, we're obviously talking about the risk to the child?
It can be the risk to the child, yes.
What about the risk that the child presents to other people?
It can be, yes, in the likes of like a risk assessment and that sort of thing, yes, it can be.
So in that circumstances, when you say safeguarding, you might actually be considering the risk that one pupil presents to other pupils?
It can be, yes.
Thank you. You've mentioned the CPOMS system,
Yes.
So that was an online system, and is this right, it allowed staff to log concerns?
Yes, that's correct.
And I think you perhaps already described this, but did those concerns sort of arrive for you to review electronically?
Yes, they do. Basically, what happens is, if, say, for example, a teaching assistant, sort of a child discloses something to, say, one of the teaching assistants, they would log it on CPOMS, and what would happen is they would alert the form tutor and also any of the safeguarding team, any of the other DSLs within the school. And obviously they would look, and then you would look and see what actions needed to be taken. Maybe it could be a phone call home or a review meeting to address any issues that were concerning, or maybe just to do some work with the young person around what their issues were.
And would you set those actions on the CPOMS?
Yes, you would do, yeah.
And does the software sort of track those actions, so leave them open, they need to be closed?
Yes, it does. Basically what happens is, like, the head teacher and the DSLs have like sort of what you call a factor 2 authentication access, which is like a higher level, so you get an overview of all the incidents of every young person within the school. And basically, like, the staff that didn't have that factor 2 access, they would just log an incident, and then obviously it would just go off their screen. And what happens is, if you can alert them back to sort of like to do another action type of thing. So if you sort of say, for example, if you ring home, can you make a phone call home to address this with the parent, that would come up for them to action, and then they would put a comment on it, and then it would come back to me as the DSL. It's a bit complicated, I'm sorry.
I understand it. Yeah, thank you. And can I ask, in terms of using that programme, did you receive training in how to work it?
Not as such. We had actually seen it used in other schools, and we've sort of had a look, seen, like, obviously you can get like a really good chronology from CPOMS, and basically the head teacher at the time, Jane Eccleston, had a look at it at another school, and we looked at it, and it was a lot easier being electronically than on paper. And so we decided to just go ahead with CPOMS.
Thank you. What about Prevent? In your role as a DSL, had you had training on Prevent?
Yes, the whole school had training on Prevent. I can't remember the exact date, but we did do the Prevent training, and I also did a little bit of sort of like an update to Prevent training as well.
I think you say in your statement, it's paragraph 52, if you'll note that there wasn't a requirement to complete refresher training on a regular basis.
That's correct.
But you think that is something that would be
definitely
a useful thing to
Yes, I think it should be brought up. Obviously, every member of staff does level 2 safeguarding, 1 and 2 in education at the beginning of the year, and I think the Prevent training should be mandatory alongside that.
Thank you. Can I ask you a bit about the Acorn School?
Yeah.
So it had a roll of 100 pupils, is that right?
Approximately, yes.
Approximately, yeah. And it was what's called a pupil referral unit, which we heard a bit about from Mr. Turner yesterday. Just given you were there for some time, can you just tell us about the typical profile of a pupil?
Basically, we would get a young person who would be permanently excluded. There is actually a process. Once a young person is permanently excluded from mainstream school, we get sort of basically like a bit of a pen profile, like a penalty form from Pupil Access. And we don't get a terrible lot of information. What we did find was in the Acorns was we got quite a few young people who were who did have some form of special educational need that was unidentified. We also would get some young people who were involved in like gang cultures, knife crime, that sort of thing. And a lot of it was behaviour within school, and it was unacceptable behaviour. You know, you would get sort of almost like violent outbursts, things like that. Obviously, every young person was very different, shall I say. It's very hard to describe your typical profile of a young person within like a pupil referral unit, because you do get young people who are referred on medical grounds as well with anxiety, and we also get young people sort of who are on the verge, sort of going down the route of a fixed term exclusion from school, and we would do like sort of intervention work with those young people for like roughly about 8 weeks for them to return back to mainstream school with enough sort of like things in their toolbox to cope and manage within the classes within mainstream school.
Thank you. And you say in your statement it's not uncommon for pupils to have pupils who are known to carry weapons or other prohibited items at your paragraph 5.
Yes.
And that all pupils had an arrival process whereby they had to hand in their phone and they were wanded.
Yes,
is that right?
yes, they were, that's correct.
So wanded as in checked for weapons or anything else?
Yeah, we had like a holding area as well, where they would hand the phone in, and they would go through, and then they would be wanded every day.
Thank you. I want to ask you, please, about the first Prevent referral you made. We've obviously heard evidence from the Prevent officers, so we have some background to this, and I just want your involvement. Just to start, your sort of general level of personal interaction with AR before you received notifications about his behaviour through CPOMs, did you have any?
No.
Thank you. Were you teaching at this
I wasn't, no. I was actually sort of the DSL and pupil support manager at the time, so no, I wasn't teaching.
So the trigger for your involvement with AR was a CPOMs entry?
Yes.
Thank you. Although, is it right to say that you did at some stage sit in AR's lessons, and so at a later stage you did have personal involvement?
Yes, I did. Yes, that was with Maggie Allred, who was the one-to-one high support tutor.
Thank you. So the first notification you had, which came on the 15th of November, was after AR had been discovered researching mass school shootings in an IT lesson. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you. If we could have up the CPOMS record, it's LCC 001346. Thank you. And if we could go to the final page, page 71. And if we could just expand the bottom third of the page, so from during ICT lesson. Thank you. So we see here a chain of entries.
Yes.
The first, presumably, well, we can see from the date as the initial from Stephanie Heaton, dated 1/17, correct?
Yes.
And then 2 that follow.
Yes.
The first entry was, as I've just described, found AR searching school shootings. When I told him to stop and get on with his work, he tried to engage in a conversation about the subject, but was told this was not going to happen. And Miss Heaton says, I've been told that we can no longer log student web history. Is that right? Or at least that's right in terms of what she says, but we'll come on to what happened.
I'm unsure of that, I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll come on to the web history, but anyway,
Okay.
that's the
Yes.
entry made at the time.
Yeah.
Looking at the entry below, the associated action there seems to be from Ms. Hodson.
Yes.
Do you know why it was Miss Hodson who responded?
I think Miss Hodson was a DSL as well at the time, and obviously she was Senko at one time as well, so she would have like looked at it, and it was probably my workload as well.
So it might just have been
yes.
she logged on before
Yes,
you did.
yeah.
She asked Sharon Evans to call Home Please and ask them about the referral to CAMS.
Yes.
And we see Miss Evans says that she telephoned AR's father and informed him of the incidents.
Yes.
Asked him to reinforce that this was not appropriate use of internet during school,
Yeah.
and did indeed ask about the updates. Alphonse, AR's father, returned the call a few minutes later and informed Miss Evans that AR said that he'd only copied behaviour of another student and that he'd clicked on a hyperlink news story. Just pausing there, did you ever have any information to be able to assess whether that was accurate or not?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I think as what it was with the school systems as they were, I wouldn't have thought that he would have had a hyperlink to such a news story as that, what he was looking at, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. But obviously you weren't at the class, and it
No,
doesn't sound
I
like you were
wasn't, no.
party to these conversations either.
No.
And then we see Mrs. Martindale was present during the telephone conversation and said that she would need a few days to get a copy of AR's browsing history. Mrs. Martindale, what role did she have?
She was the school office manager.
Thank you. And so we see then that initially Miss Heaton perhaps thought it wasn't possible to get the browsing history, but by the 18th of November, so over the weekend, Mrs. Martindale suggested that she could. Obviously, the response to this had been done by Miss Hodson. Did you have involvement in sort of carrying any actions forward from this?
No, obviously because the associated actions are actually there. So no, I didn't.
Thank you. We see in the bottom right-hand corner, edited on the 5th of December by you.
Yes.
Are you able to say what that might relate to?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. No, I really don't know.
So that was on the day that the prevent referral was made.
Right.
Might you
It
have...
might have been a copy and paste what I did, possibly. I might have been to take maybe Mrs. Martindale's name out of it, or maybe, you know, with the addressing like the different names on it, I think.
Thank you. And just looking at the top left, it's got a sort of cause for concern flag.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
does that mean?
They are the different headings. There are about 100 different headings that you can have within CPOMs, and obviously it was clicked as a cause for concern because I don't think at the time there was actually a heading for ICT issues or anything like that.
Thank you. You tell us in your statement, paragraph 8, that after this there was a kind of escalation in AR's behaviour over the
Yes.
following few weeks. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And that included AR refusing to do work, punching himself, making comments about murder, talking about internet searches for guns, and asking about
Yes.
severed heads, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. So that information was coming to you on the CPOM's log, and we can follow it
Yes.
through. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
But we have seen the prevent referral where those entries are copied across, so I
Yes.
don't propose to go through those. So just for your note, the referrer is LCC 30383.
That's very helpful.
You tell us in your statement that the accumulation of information that you received was sufficient for you to want to go to speak to the head teacher. Why was that?
I think because I think he was presented as vulnerable, but also I suspected there was some sort of learning need, possibly unable to focus in lessons, socially isolated within lessons, which I really thought what he was viewing, attempting to view, was completely unacceptable, but also I thought that there was a possibility that he could become radicalised, or, you know, with what he was observing, because we weren't sure what he was looking at home as well. So that's why I went to the head teacher to discuss a referral.
So prevent was one of the things on your mind when you went to speak to the head teacher?
Yeah.
You talk about the possibility of him becoming radicalised.
Yes.
Did you think from the information that you were seeing that there was any kind of ideology?
I sort of strongly suspected that he might be able to form his own ideology. That was my thinking behind it, because I thought he was clearly looking at these things and making quite shocking statements as well, which is why I really thought there was a possibility that he could form his own ideology.
So are you saying that there was violence-related information and that could be tagged on
Possibly,
to
yes.
an ideology? Thank you. Had you had training on, or had your prevent training taught you about how to approach that sort of question?
From what I can recall, no, but police officers, when we did do the when I did like the refresher training, they actually did say, please don't hesitate to make a referral, because we are a signposting service as well, and we can have a look at the information that you send through and to give advice almost.
Were you aware of these concepts that Prevent might look at someone who was interested in school massacres?
Yes and no, really, because I really thought that it could be influencing him. So that's why I thought he's got an interest in school massacres, and I thought it could possibly become that ideology. That's what that was my thinking behind it all.
Thank you. Can we come on then to the school browsing history? So we saw that Mrs. Martindale had the intent to get it. Could we have on screen, please, your statement, page 4, paragraph 11? Thank you. So you discuss a call with the police a couple of hours of making the prevent referral. We might come to see some emails that relate to that, but you say at this distance in time you don't remember much about it. You describe 2 police officers coming to Acorns for a meeting. Do you know when that was?
I think it was literally within a few days of making the referral, from what I can remember.
We have records of you attending strategy meetings, which would have been, I think, 17th of December.
I didn't attend that one. I think there was one strategy meeting that I didn't attend, and I think it might have been the one on the 17th of December, because Jane Eccleston was still there then, I think, from what I can remember.
I don't think any of the prevent officers suggest that they came to meet you at this time. Could it have been another police officer?
I'm not sure, I'm sorry.
Going back to the internet history, you say in the middle, we see in the middle of the paragraph, I cannot specifically recall the police asking for a copy of AR's internet history, but they may have. I would not have had any involvement in this. Are you talking here about what happened after the referral, or what you sent through when you made it?
This might have been after the referral, I would think, but obviously I'm not technically minded, and I don't have anything to do with that sort of, internet search histories. I wouldn't know how to get a copy of it of a young person at all.
So you wouldn't know how to do the technical work
No.
to get it?
No.
Would you ever receive it for review?
I don't recall I actually did, to be perfectly honest with you. And to be honest, if I did receive it, it wouldn't have meant much to me because it would have just had a lot of figures on it and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I think you say at page 7, paragraph 28, I believe attempts were made to extract AR's internet history, but this was not done by me.
That's correct.
I think it's been suggested that the school browsing history may have been provided at the time of the referral. So you
Right.
sent through some emails which we'll come to.
Right.
Are you able to comment on that?
No.
I think, well, let me ask you this. The inquiry now has that school browsing history.
Right.
So, as you probably know, the browsing history itself is LCC 001401. You clearly don't remember seeing it at the time, nor carrying out any work to see what it showed, correct?
That's correct.
The inquiry's reviewed the links since receiving it, and it shows AR searching for images of unpleasant degloving injuries, for example. Were you aware of that before your preparation for the inquiry?
No.
Thank you. Could we have on screen, please, the CPOM's entry for you making the referral, which is LCC 001346. And it's page 69 and the bottom entry on that page. Could just expand the bottom entry, thank you. So referral made to prevent after taking advice. The 6th, so we know that referral is dated on the 5th. The next day, 6th, prevent contacted JL and requested that the information on the attachments were put on the referral form to enable the police officers to access the information directly. And then we see on the 10th of December, the prevent referral was resubmitted. Do you see that there?
Yes.
I just want to consider the emails. I appreciate you don't have memory, but do say if you're able to interpret what they show or they jog your memory. So can we have up, please, LANC 30175? Thank you, and page 19. So the first thing to note about this email is it's dated the 12th of May 2025, which is clearly wrong.
Yes.
Because we can see you're sending a referral for AR to concern at Lancashire Police email address. We'll see other emails with different timestamps, but I just want to refer to the attachments. So we see current CPOM, so that attachment name suggests that the CPOMs were sent through at whatever time it was sent. Do you see that?
Yes. Yeah.
And then the other attachment is a zip file, and we have a statement from Miss Hodson which says that it included documentation from a CAMS referral that was made, a report from PC McNamee, which was the email sent to the range that we've heard about, a range school safeguarding form, and range, form advising of permanent exclusion. We don't see any reference to the school browsing history. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Could we go, please, to page 43 of this file? And just, I'm looking at the second email there. Thank you very much. So we see the same text. We can't see whether there are attachments, but do you see that the timing sent seems to be 5th of December 2019 at 4:06?
Yes.
Can we move then, please, to page 21? Thank you. And the bottom section of this email, the bottom email, I should say. So good afternoon, please, fine. So we see the same wording, and do you see the timestamp above? Sorry, Sarah, my fault. The timestamp above is the 5th of December 2019 at
Yes.
4:10. Yeah, thank you. So we have 3 different timings there. Finally, could we go, please, to page 20? And again, we see the same worded email, and the timing here is 6:32 p.m.
Yes.
So I think we already have heard evidence that there are a number of emails in this bundle with a timestamp of 6:32. So just for your note, rather than pulling it up, if you look at pages 88 and 89, you can see one email dated 6:32, the same email again with a different timestamp.
Thank you.
So I think we ought to treat the 6:32 timing with caution, but we have 3 different timings of email here with what seems like the same wording: 4:04, 4:10, and 6:32. The question for you, Ms. Lewis, is whether you can assist on if this is either multiple emails sent on the 5th of December or the same email but with different timestamps. Can you help in any way at all?
I would have thought it would be the same email with different time zones, I'll be honest with you, because 6:32 p.m, I wouldn't have been in school at that time.
4:04 and 4:10, would you have sent the same email with the same body but different attachments?
Possibly.
But you don't remember how it happened?
Sorry.
Thank you. Could we go to page 18, please? See again the same body of the email, and above writing in red, which is from the counter-terrorism policing officer, who we're calling Officer A. I think you might have spoken to one CTP officer on the phone.
Yes.
Please don't name that officer. You're asked to complete the attached prevent referral form. So is it possible that you sent the information but without completing the form?
I think I possibly did, yes, I think I did, because I think I wanted to have a bit of advice in hindsight. I think I requested maybe some advice.
Had you made prevent referrals before?
Yeah.
Thank you. And we see, I think, what is internal writing, so it wasn't sent to you,
Yes.
calling the referral quite confusing, and appears to be a large dump of data from the school,
Yes.
but not clear if there's any concern about his ideology or radicalisation. We've probably touched on your thoughts on that.
Yes.
Did you have concern about ideology or radicalisation at the time you made the referral?
Yes.
But I think you've described the way in which you saw that.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. So not in terms of the typical political or religious
No.
ideology. Thank you. And we can see that the officer has seen the information you provided and deduced that threats to stab other people in the school, and the police have already been involved. So whatever you've sent through clearly included that information.
Yes.
Could we go back to the CPOMS log, please? LCC 001346. And page 67. Thank you. And the bottom of the page, the last entry, we can see that on the 6th you received a phone, or you made an entry saying you'd received a phone call from Prevent requesting that the referral be completed again due to too many attachments being forwarded for the police to go through.
Yes.
Do you think that's an accurate record of what you were told, that you'd sent through too many attachments?
Yes, I think so.
Can you remember that?
I can remember that. I think I can anyway.
And what did you think about it?
What did I think?
Yeah,
about?
what was your view on being told?
I thought that you can never have too much information, and I actually thought that by giving a lot more information, I thought that police officers would be able to go through it and sort of have a look and have an overview of what we were trying to convey.
Thank you. So we can see you sending through the completed referral form. So we might have seen enough email, so I might give you the reference, but it's page 42 of that email document, LAMC 000175. That email has 3 attachments we see when we look at it. I don't need to take you to the content. So presumably it was more than just the referral form. Do you have any memory of what that might have been?
I would have thought it might have been maybe the CPOMs. I sent the CPOMs as well, but I'd taken like some snapshots out of it and copied and pasted it onto the form, and then they could have a look at the attachment to make, you know, sort of to put it more in context than just like a snapshot on the form.
I think we saw the CPOMs had been sent in the first email.
Yes, yeah.
I appreciate this is quite some time ago. Thank you, and we also see that you sent a chronology in another email, so that's LANC 000175 and page 46.
Thank you.
Just 2 documents, please, or 1 document, I'm afraid, 1 further email to take you to before we close this off. It's LANC 30175. Page 67. So, the top of the page, please, the red writing and the email below. So this is the email of you sending through the amended referral form as requested. And if we could then please go up to page 66. And just zoom into the top red writing at the bottom of the page, so the first paragraph. Thank you. Concern form received from school from Jan Lewis, who have also referred this to social services. I have re-contacted Jan as we do not have details of the internet search history or what he was looking at. Just pausing there, clearly CTP did not consider that they'd received the search history at this stage. Do you agree?
Yes.
Jan will be contacting the school IT provider to obtain this information if this is still available. So your response wasn't, I've already sent this through, it was, I will go and see if I can get it. Do you agree?
I agree.
And we're 4 or 5 days after that initial flurry of emails. Yeah. Would you have remembered if you had sent it through at that time, do you think?
I would have done, yes.
Thank you. So you've also seen the JAT referral form with Officer B, which is CTP NW 30146, which again refers to a request for the school internet history on the 10th of December, and the school saying they're making inquiries. We've talked about the visits, we've seen the phone calls. Can you remember any other contacts that you had with Prevent officers in 2019, early 2020?
No, not really. Sorry.
The strategy meetings.
Yes.
I know you say you only went to one. I
Yes.
think the minutes suggest you were at both, but perhaps
Yeah,
incorrectly.
that was incorrect. That.
Yeah. And do you remember whether you saw Prevent officers at that meeting? I think the minutes suggested they attended.
I think yes. I think there was one or two there.
Thank you. You tell us in your statement you became aware that the referral had been closed off, but you can't remember how or when.
No, there was no sort of. We didn't sort of receive any sort of almost official form to say, give an advice or anything like that to say it was closed off. I presume it would have been an email that was sent to us to say it was closed.
I don't think we see that email in the many that we have. Thank you. We also don't see any record of you being contacted again by CTP asking for that internet browsing history. I assume you don't remember that happening.
No.
Thank you. Of course, we know that it was obtained at some stage because it's been disclosed to the inquiry. If you had been asked again, presumably you would have been able to provide it.
Yes, I would have been, yes. Yeah, I would have looked into it.
Do you remember, or did you have any involvement with the Merseyside police investigation for the hockey stick incident?
No.
Thank you. And do you know anything about the statements that they might have tried to obtain afterwards?
No, I don't. Sorry.
Just a couple more points on this Prevent referral, but moving on. It was 3 weeks between the first entry about AR researching school shootings and you making the Prevent referral, so a relatively short period. And as you've said, more information was coming in this time.
Yeah.
Did you consider making a referral purely on the basis of the school shootings CPOM's entry when you saw it?
No, because I think obviously staff had challenged it and we had to go through a process really of sort of speaking to parents and that sort of thing first, and obviously staff would challenge it straight away, and to see if it would stop as well. So.
Thank you. That might be a good moment for a break. So, noting we're about halfway through.
10 minutes?
10 minutes?
10
Yes,
minutes.
no
Yes.
problem.
I'll sit again at 1:15. Yes, Mr.
Ms. Lewis, I want to now please just ask you a bit about AR's other internet usage around this time.
Right.
Could we have on screen, please, LCC 001580? And page 4. There's an entry, the bottom of the entry is on the 22nd of November 2019. Thank you. So the bottom entry there, or penultimate, but the bottom for the 22nd of November says, AR looking at a website about health and safety equipment for his lesson. He started looking at nunchucks. He said, look at these nunchucks. And SB, that's the teacher said you should be looking at tools, come off that and continue your work. AR changed back and continued with his work. Were you aware of that at that entry at the time?
Yes, I presume that would have been logged on CPOMs.
Well, it isn't. That's the
Is it
reason I'm
not?
taking you to this. So,
Right, so it should have been logged on CPOMs, that.
so this document is a chronology.
Right, yes.
We saw in the previous emails that you'd sent one through. Was a chronology being kept of AR's actions alongside the CPOM's records?
Yes, there will have been, I would have thought, because obviously, you know, in the light of like concerns that have been expressed to the range, I think, of his behaviour as well.
So this record should have been on CPOMs. Do you accept that?
I would have said that entry should have been on CPOMs, yes. It should have been put on by the teacher.
And it should have gone in the prevent referral as well?
Possibly, yes.
Possibly or probably?
Well, yes.
Thank you. Around the same time, AR also made attempts to override security settings on the computers. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
So at your paragraph 27, you tell us about this, and for your note, there's corresponding CPOMs entries on LCC 001346, pages 66 to 67.
Thank you.
I think those happened days after the prevent referral had been made. Haven't seen any documentation to show that the fact that AR was trying to bypass the security was passed on to prevent. Do you know whether it was or not?
I don't recall that it was referred on to prevent. I don't recall doing that.
Do you agree that it should have been?
I think it should have been, yes,
Because
in hindsight.
one thing that prevent had to do was assess whether AR's account was true,
Yes.
or whether he was showing signs of disguised compliance. And we saw in the initial call from Alphonse R that he gave a different explanation as to why he was on the
Yes.
school shooting
Yeah.
website. Looking back at this, do you have any concern that AR appears to have been persistently using the computers inappropriately, if I can put it that way?
Yes, but obviously the staff that were in class there would have, you know, sort of addressed it straight away. The staff were very good at that, particularly the teaching assistants. You know, they would constantly survey the room because obviously the classes weren't large. And obviously they're there to support the young people doing the work, and it would have been sort of challenged straight away. Yes.
So we can see that there were incidents picked
Yes.
up and
Yes.
recorded, but relying on a teacher to keep an eye on AR's screen, would you agree left a little bit of a margin for him to exploit?
Possibly, but the teaching assistant would be sort of around as well, so she would be sort of scanning the room as well, which is part of like the teaching assistant's role.
And is this right? He was banned from using a computer after
That's correct.
around this time.
That's correct.
AR suggested that he was being bullied at Acorns at around this time. Sorry.
Complete rubbish.
And
He wasn't.
Can you help us on how you come to that conclusion?
Basically, any racism or anything, there is a policy within the school, and any racism it is not tolerated in any way, shape or form within school. It's challenged immediately, and it's stopped.
So you weren't in any of AR's classes, but you're, by the sounds of things, very confident that if any bullying had been going on, it would have been picked up.
Definitely would have been challenged and stopped. Yes.
I want to move on, please, to ask you about AR's attendance at the Acorns after December 2019. So we know that on 11th of December he carried out the attack at the Range
Yes.
High School. You tell us in your statement that you were aware that he hadn't come in that morning to the Acorns as expected, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And is this right? You asked the receptionist to call AR's parents, and AR's father said that AR had got in a taxi to Acorns that morning.
Yes.
Thank you. It's your paragraph 12. After that attack had happened, AR wasn't allowed to return back to the Acorns, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. and you say that it was felt that it was unsafe to bring him back into school without a full risk assessment being conducted by the agencies involved at paragraph 14.
That's correct.
During this time, work was sent home to AR so that he could maintain a level of education, but I think you say that this wasn't particularly successful. Why was that?
I think he refused to engage within education. I think there were a number of issues at home, I think, that we weren't informed about. But I think he just refused to do any of the work.
You, I think, attended AR's home for safeguarding checks, and AR, was that on more than one occasion?
From what I can remember, I think it might have been twice, maybe, I think.
And do you have any memory of those visits? What impression did you have of AR and his parents?
Initially, I think Dad was reluctant to let us see him, and I went with my colleague Carol to drop work off, and we insisted that we see him, and he was brought to the front door because we just had to see that he was okay, that he was okay.
Did AR's father say why he was reluctant to have you see him?
He just said he was in his bedroom.
Thank you. That status quo lasted for some time, although of course there was the advent of COVID, which would have affected AR's attendance anyway. In terms of getting the risk assessment that you were searching for, is this right that Acorns was looking for it to be done on a multi-agency basis? So in other words, more than just your own assessment of AR's?
Yes, we were looking for the other agencies to support us and to do that, yes.
Why was that?
Because obviously out of school we can't control, or we don't really know what sort of risks are happening outside of school. Because obviously we can risk assess within school, but not outside of school, because we're not party to what, where they're going, what's happening, who they're hanging out with, where they are. We're just sort of within school time.
So you don't have vision of their associations, which in some circumstances, outside of school, which in some circumstances could raise the risk?
Possibly we could. It would depend who they're associating with. Obviously, if it's
not probably a good example for AR.
No.
Who was clearly isolated. Can you remember what steps were taken to try to get that risk assessment?
I think the head teacher might have requested it, because obviously I think the school were under pressure to take AR back into school. And obviously the head teacher stated, it was obviously the level of risk he presented to the other young people and staff as well.
And which agency or what body were you expecting to provide the risk assessment?
Children's Social Care.
But that you were expecting that to be a process which involved...
Yes, yeah. I think it should have been a multi-agency process where we could input into it. Yes, definitely.
And do you know why that didn't happen?
No.
Thank you. I want to move on to the second prevent referral, please. So we know from Mr. Krajine that he provided you with some Instagram posts. Can you remember any discussions at the time with him around those posts?
He contacted us and I spoke to him, and basically he said that he was targeting one of their students, and I think it was quite threatening what was being said, and it was linked to Colonel Gaddafi. So I actually said, right, we'll make another prevent referral. But in hindsight, I think maybe the Range should have done a prevent referral because it affected one of their students. Or maybe if we would have done one each, one for their, for what had happened.
So I think on the, maybe we should pull it up. It's LCC 30455. Thank you. And page 3. So we have, I think, copied in the referral, the email that you received from Mr. Krajine. And he says that he wanted to draw 2 attachments from the Instagram account appears to still be in contact with some pupils from our school, one of whom brought this to our attention. There's nothing strikingly dangerous in this message. It contains some details regarding Colonel Gaddafi, which might raise some potential radicalisation concerns. There's no mention of targeting in this email, is there?
No.
Are you able to help? I don't think Mr. Krugine mentioned that in his evidence. Are you able to help where that comes from?
I think it was the fact that I think it might have been a previous student that he was actually trying to target and possibly intimidate, I think, from what I can sort of gather from the text.
So that's your interpretation of this
Yes, yes.
You sought advice from someone called Pam Smith, who you say is CT Prevent.
Yes.
Are you able to help with who she is, which agency she works for?
I presume she would be the Prevent manager for Lancashire, like it says, I think.
Thank you. And that prompted you to make the referral?
Yes.
Which we can see here. There was contact from PC Thompson. Could we have, please, LCC 001526 and page 3. Thank you. So the bottom email, PC Thompson says she tried to call you, but you weren't available, so sending an email. Wanted to check that there are no further concerns other than the information from the previous school in relation to Instagram posts. If we then go up to the top of that page, we have your response where you say no further concerns at this time. In hindsight, at the point that you sent that message, were there any other issues that you now think you could have shared?
No, I don't think so.
So we have the CPOM's records.
Yes.
And you don't think there's anything in those that would have merited being passed on?
Not as far as I'm sorry, I can't remember.
That's fine. Could we move up the page to the top of page 2? So we've seen the email you've sent back to PC Thompson saying
Yes.
No further concerns at this time. The next email on this chain is from Ms. Allred to you and Ms. Hodson. I assume that there was a concern. I'm concerned as I think he may not be active, but he could easily be radicalised and would be a huge risk if this happened. The risk would be a very real harm to others.
Yes.
Did you agree with that description?
I did, but without the actual facts, we can't make a referral on the basis of somebody's concern. Almost, it has to be fact. Safeguarding is about fact.
PC Thompson. So to finish this off, this obviously wasn't forwarded to Prevent.
No.
PC Thompson said, I think this is something that she would have explored if it had been. Did you have an idea about Prevent not wanting to hear concerns and only wanting facts? I mean, had that come from your Prevent training?
Yeah, I think that's what I presumed, yes. Yeah, that it would be based on facts, because if it's concern, you haven't got the cold, hard facts, have you? So.
No, but that said, Miss Allred had perhaps the most one-to-one contact with AR.
She did, yes.
And that concern must have been fed by facts from her interactions from AR.
Possibly, yeah.
With hindsight, do you agree that this should have been forwarded?
Possibly, I think, yes.
Possibly, or it should have been?
I don't know if Prevent would have taken it seriously, to be perfectly honest.
That's perhaps another question, is what the response would have been. But you said that Prevent did ask for information to be provided.
Yes, they did, yes.
If we just finish looking at the rest of the email chain, page 1. Your response was, don't worry, PC Thompson will be looking into it.
Yes.
She's worked with AR before and knows about his background. She's more likely done a lot of the legwork already and just wants to know if we have any further immediate concerns. What were you thinking that legwork would have entailed at the time?
I think she would, well, I think when she's worked with him, I think she sort of had an idea of what he was like and how he was presenting as well, and possibly maybe, I don't know, maybe that he said things to shock people, to get a reaction.
When you say worked with him, were you expecting there to be conversations between AR and Prevent on this occasion?
Yes, possibly.
If we look at the top of the page, then you, I think, give a sentiment which is quite similar to the answer you've given before.
Yeah.
Don't assume, we can only refer on what we see,
Yes.
not we fear. Yeah.
Yes.
And that is a principle of safeguarding.
Yes, it is.
But do you accept that where we're looking at prevent radicalisation might be a slightly different consideration?
Yes, yeah, I accept that.
The referral wasn't taken forward. In other words, the prevent referral was not accepted and taken on to the channel panel. Were you told about that?
I don't recall being told, no.
Did you understand what could happen if AR had been adopted?
No.
Did you know about channel panels and the interventions that they could
yes,
give?
I mean, I think possibly that's probably why I did. I was very shocked at the first referral that it didn't get referred to channel, because I think to try and nip something in the bud, so to speak, I think possibly would have prevented a lot of what happened. So, yeah, I think.
Thank you. Did you think to contact PC Thompson? You had her email address to ask her what was happening or what her view was?
No, I didn't, sorry.
You made a third referral then based on AR's comments, which talked about researching London Bridge,
Yes.
Israel and Palestine and the IRA. Is this right? You met with AR's father to advise that the referral would be made?
Yes, I think I met with Jane Eccleston was present there, the previous head, to talk about the prevent referral. And I think, yes, I think it was then. I thought it might have been a bit earlier that we had the meeting with his father.
Sorry, say that again.
I thought it was a little bit earlier than that, you know, before what happened at the Range High School, but I'm not entirely sure. But I do recall it was a very short meeting with Jane Eccleston, the head teacher.
Yeah.
And we talked about the prevent referral, and I think Joe Hodson was present as deputy as well.
So if we have up your statement, please, page 6, paragraph 26. Bottom paragraph, you discuss meeting, and this in context is after the third prevent referral. So your recollection is that Alphonse R felt that AR was being bullied and subject to racist abuse by the school. I think we've already covered your views on that.
Yes.
He was dismissive of the concerns being raised. Are you able to remember any more about what was said?
Yes, I think he just said that he clicked on a hyperlink or something within, like...
So is there similar answer given in response to this referral?
Yes, yes.
Did you tell Alphonse R whether or not he could share that prevent referral with AR?
We took legal advice. We actually said to Dad that
Just stopping you there,
Oh, sorry.
I know that there was a process afterwards
Right,
whereby
yes.
AR asked to see
Yes.
it. But before that, at this meeting with Alphonse R, can you remember whether you gave him any instructions about whether to give the referral to AR or not?
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Thank you. But it was given, is this right? And AR then asked to be provided with the referral, correct?
I think so. Yes.
And is that the legal advice that you then took as to whether or not you were obliged to share it with him?
The legal advice that we took was to say, as long as it, I think it was something along the lines of, as long as the young person is able to cope with seeing it and is capable of reading through it, I think. They said they do have a right to see it unless circumstances dictate not to share it almost.
And you took the view that the circumstances did dictate not to share, correct?
Yes.
We know this referral wasn't taken forward. Did you know that at the time?
No.
And did you at any stage gain reassurance from the idea that Prevent had seen AR's case?
No.
You hadn't followed up what happened, so you didn't know what the outcome was?
I can't remember. I'm really sorry.
Thank you. Could we just pull up, please, moving forward now to January 2022, LCC 001346. So back on the CPOM's records, page 12, please, and the bottom of the page. If we could just expand the final entry, thank you. So I think the stars are AR's name redacted, correct?
Yes, they are. That's correct.
AR asked Miss Allred if she'd heard what Rishi Sunak had said about Jews, and that was, I think, supposed to be anti-Semitic, but AR didn't think it was. AR said that's why is everyone, so it doesn't quite follow through. Why is it that everyone knows about the Jewish Holocaust, but no one talks about the other genocides in this world? AR said it is not right that only Jewish people should be talked about, and they do sometimes have a lot of money, that is true. AR said he believed the British government knew about the Holocaust but didn't do anything about it, etc. And we see that Mrs. Allred did challenge this,
she did.
and we see the sort of lengthy explanation that she gives on why that was inappropriate.
Yes.
If we could just please then expand the middle, and sorry, just while we're here, sorry, Sarah, just in the bottom right, we can see that was edited, I think, by you. If we just expand that bottom entry. Thank you very much. Thank you. If we could just look at the entry in the middle of the page. Thank you. So AR this time talking about politics, raising issues around the death of Lady Diana, poisoning of waters, etc. And Mrs. Allred asked AR check that his sources are reliable, and it's important that he does not use information to promote hate or violence. And he said sometimes violence is necessary, that's the only way that creates change. Mrs. Allred disagreed and said Mandela and Gandhi, and AR dismissed this, making negative comments about them. And again, we see she goes on to correct his behaviour and the things that he's saying. And finally, if we could have the top entry on that page, and I just again mention in passing that all these records I think are marked as edited by you. AR again talking about the Holocaust, and Mrs. Allred saying she felt offended by what he'd saying. AR asked about what was written down and says that he meant that all genocide should be advertised equally. And Mrs. Allred agreed to record this. And there was also a request about what AR wanted recorded about the account that was written up for Prevent. And we can see there that it seemed to be the advice from CAMS that a way to resolve that issue, which I think had caused a sort of breakdown in the relationship, was to ensure AR's opinion was recorded. AR said there wasn't a bomb on London Bridge, and that wasn't true. I think the entry back in 2021 said that it was talking about a bomb on London Bridge. But we know there have been 2 terrorist attacks there, but that's perhaps a question of wider news. Would you agree that AR made some concerning comments within here, albeit there is also some discussion of political issues?
Yes, I agree that he did make some concerning comments, but I think Mrs. Allred challenged him appropriately.
Yeah. The entries were all edited by you, but seeing those entries against the background that you already knew and the referrals that you had already made, do you agree that these issues also met that same threshold to make a Prevent referral?
In hindsight, yes.
And are you able to say why one wasn't made at the time?
I think because there was so much information coming through, and basically I was of the mind that I didn't think that Prevent would do anything about it, to be honest, I think.
So you hadn't had feedback from the last from certainly you can't remember feedback from the second and the third Prevent referrals, is that right? And so your view was that you didn't have an expectation that you would get feedback from this? You also became aware, although this is towards the end of AR's time at Acorns, of the bus incident on the 17th of March 2022, where AR was found with a knife on a bus and without needing to turn it up. So we have the MASH notification, which is LCC 001398.
Thank you.
Again, do you agree that that could have prompted a Prevent referral too?
Possibly, but I think that the police that dealt with it, I thought that they would have made the referral, to be perfectly honest, because it's happened outside of school.
Thank you. I just want to ask you now, please, about your handover to Pressfield. We see an email in which you ask for their details of their designated safeguard lead on the 18th of March 2022. And you are given email addresses of Cheryl Smith and also the Deputy DSL Mark Rigby. So it's PRE 001730. Could we have up on screen, please, the CPOMS records again, LCC 001346. Page 4. And the large entry, if we could just expand that large entry that takes up most of the page. So we see 21st of March 2022 at 9:15, and we have a string of information here. And I just note at the very bottom we see those 2 email addresses of Miss Smith and Mr. Rigby as mentioned. There's some information here about contact with AR's father. But then if we look 6 or 7 lines down, we see that you spoke to Mrs. Allred about informing the Pressfield School of the events on Thursday, which I think would have been the knife on the bus incident, so they can risk assess for his visit today.
Yeah.
And it says that Mrs. Allred spoke to the deputy head, and then Cheryl Smith, the safeguarding lead, rang back for more information. The information shared was as follows. Were you a party to that conversation?
No, Mrs. Allred had the conversation.
Thank you. We see Mrs. Allred giving information about AR ran away from home on Thursday with a kitchen knife with a plan to stab somebody as a result of taking literally information from Sam, his CAMS worker, and he thought this would be a good idea as a result. When police picked him up, he seemed to have, I think that should be no insight into the actual risk of taking this action. It says no harm was done. The advice was Mrs. Allred said AR would be very unlikely to do anything in school. However, he will need to be closely supervised. Acorns have asked all staff to be aware and carefully check AR on arrival into school. Just pausing there, would you have known about the security measures that Pressfield had in place
No.
when a student arrived?
No.
So you wouldn't know, for example, about wanding?
No. I wouldn't have been party to him transferring over to Pressfield.
Thank you. Just continuing, and accepting this as Mrs. Allred's entry, but she said, do not discuss the incident with him, as he will probably not want the school to know, as he is probably very keen to give a good impression. Do you have any view on the advice that was given there? Do you know what's behind it?
I think it's possibly to, so he doesn't get, because he had a diagnosis of ASD, possibly to not get fixated and stuck on that incident, I think.
Thank you. Then we see some further detail given by Mrs. Allred. She says a full CPOMS report has been sent to the school, but the school will send an up-to-date report with the Encompass report on from Thursday, and that's the one I gave the reference to earlier. Cheryl Smith has asked, has AR spoken to Sam, the CAMS counsellor, since, and will listen to her. I think that's a question. Discussion that there's a strong relationship, some discussion about social stories, and then Cheryl said that she has not seen the CPOMS, and Mrs. Allred said she thinks the head, Hayley Dawson, has seen the CPOMS report. Mrs. Allred agreed to get a full CPOMS report sent to her before the meeting on Wednesday. All three agreed that the transition between schools has possibly contributed to AR finding things difficult. Is that a suggestion that him going on the bus with the knife might have been partially triggered by the move that was happening around that time?
Possibly, I think.
And then the last sentence, Mrs. Lewis agreed to send a full CPOMS report to Cheryl.
Yes, that's correct.
Was that wasn't from your involvement with the conversation with Mrs. Smith? That was something that
No.
Mrs. Allred passed on to you, was it?
It was something that Mrs. Allred passed on, yes.
We have the egress email, which shows that being sent on the next day, the 22nd of March, to Miss Smith from you. So I don't think any need to pull up an egress email, but the reference is PRE 001717. It was just sent to Miss Smith. Did you think of sending it also to the deputy, Mr. Rigby?
I didn't think at the time, I'm sorry, because obviously, it was the main DSL. Usually you send to the main DSL in a school.
Thank you. If we could also have up, please, PRE 30357. So we have a chain of emails here, which is conversation about AR and the bus incident, and we can see at the top, sent by Mrs. Allred to Miss Smith, copying in Miss Dawson and you. I don't suppose you necessarily remember this email chain now, but do we see that there was discussion about the input of CAMS around this time? And again, Mrs. Allred said, I was very conscious if this is discussed in the wrong way, it will break trust with Mum, Dad and AR, so please be mindful. And I think the best way is that they volunteer the information, and if in doubt, speak with Sam. So there's a bit more reasoning perhaps given there. And if we just go over the page, please, to page 2. Appreciate you are simply copied into these emails, but there was a request from Mrs. Allred to Sam, Miss Steed, for as much information as possible so we can update our safeguarding and risk assessments. Again, all around, we see on the 22nd, the incident on the 17th of March. If we go to the top of that page, we see the response from Miss Steed, which is quite short. You were copied in emails of some time ago, but did you have a view on the response that was received?
No.
Appreciate there may have been issues of medical confidence, but would you have expected CAMS to be able to share information with you and Pressfield so that you could make a risk assessment?
Possibly, but the issue with CAMS, what we've had is that they're very reluctant to share information to education.
And do you know why that was?
They just won't. They just say for confidentiality reasons.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think your recollection, you tell us in your statement of paragraph 44, is that when AR was transferred, we've seen the CPOMS record was sent, but I think also you say AR's pupil risk assessment and his education, health and care plan was passed on.
That's correct.
Is that standard practice?
Yes.
Yeah. The CPOMs were sent on by email. We'll hear that Pressfield also had the CPOM system.
Yes.
Is there a way of sharing records
There
directly?
is. Yes, you have to go on to part of the dashboard and you do transfer the CPOMs electronically and they have to accept it when it comes through. And
do you know why the egress approach was taken? Or
I think we sent it, previously because obviously the CPOMs transfer only happens after the young person has actually gone into is actually on roll with the new school.
Yeah. Why is that?
I think it's just the method how they do things. I think usually you get like a common transfer file of pupil information, and that's uploaded to the DFE website. But I don't actually know if CPOMs can actually be uploaded to that. So obviously, but like the safeguarding stuff always comes after a child has gone on roll at a new school.
In terms of safeguarding being information about vulnerabilities that child has and potentially very sensitive information about their home life.
Yes.
Potentially one can understand one can understand the need to treat that information with care. If the information is about the risk that student poses to other students, isn't that information that needs to be known before the place is accepted? I think it should be. But I think it just seems to be practice within education. I don't know why. But obviously in Acorns, we would get young people without a lot of information at all. Yeah. We tend not to get like CPOMs, we tend not to get risk assessments. Schools don't seem to do risk assessments or anything. So we get very little information. And I think as well, it's just the general practice within the authority, I think. So Acorns potentially can receive students with quite a dangerous history, but Acorns perhaps expects that that might be
Yes,
the case, and you
yeah.
have the security measures in place.
Yes.
Other schools, would you agree, might not?
Yes, I would think so, but I would have thought a specialist school provision would have measures in place and to, have professional curiosity.
And you talked about the practice, and I think
Yes.
Mr. Turner said the same, and I think we've also seen guidance which requires things to be shared by a certain stage,
Yes,
which is not before the transfer.
yes, yeah.
But I think Mr. Turner said he didn't think there was anything that would preclude it being sent earlier.
Right, okay.
Is that something that you've contemplated?
No,
And do you think it's something that would help?
possibly yes.
Thank you. You tell us that CPOMS is a very useful tool. And can I fairly put it this way? You advocate for it in your statement.
Yes,
And you suggest that it would be helpful if it was a mandatory resource factored into the budget for each school to encourage a consistent approach in terms of the logging and sharing of safeguarding concerns. Is that right?
definitely yes. I mean, you can put attendance stuff on it, you can put all sorts of stuff on, all within the safeguarding remit, but you can actually, the SEN stuff you can actually put on it as well, and you can produce all the different reports as well. It's a really good piece of kit.
And that would have the advantage of being able to refer via CPOMS onto any school.
Yes, yeah.
Potentially, if accompanied by an email, then it's sent twice as a safeguard.
Yes. It would enable a lot of the widespread sharing of information, definitely. And it would also help if the other agencies were on CPOMS maybe or something, just so it would help the multi-agency approach.
Well, I was going to ask about that because you also suggest it would be useful for designated safeguard leads to have access to the case note systems used by early help and
Yes.
children's social services. Is that right?
Definitely, yes, because, obviously they sort of see a lot more of the wider picture of the young person. We just tend to get like the education part, and obviously if it goes to sort of child protection, we get to see bits of that, but obviously we would know then how to sort of work with the young person with the school environment if we had the wider picture as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Lewis. Those are my questions. I will just turn to see if there are any others. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Lewis.
Thank
It's been
you.
very helpful.
Thank
You're
you.
now free to go.
Thank you.
So Mrs. Hodson is our next witness, please.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hodson. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Mason.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Hodson, just start by giving us your full name, if you would, please.
My name is Mrs. Joanne Elizabeth Hodson.
Thank you. Could we have on screen, please, first of all, LCC 001773. And do we see there your statement to this inquiry dated the 2nd of September 2025?
Yep.
And can you just confirm that the contents of that statement are true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, they are.
We have on screen next, please, MERP 30509. We see here a statement that you gave to the Merseyside Police dated the 19th of August 2024. Obviously, you've given some points of clarification and detail in your inquiry statement, but I think you can confirm that you signed that statement with the standard declaration, which included that the contents were true to the best of your knowledge and belief.
Yeah.
Thank you. You've also very helpfully provided a Acorn School chronology for the purposes of the inquiry. Could we just have that on screen, please? It's LCC 001345. And can you just confirm, it may be that you had assistance of others in compiling it, but can you just confirm that that is also true to the best of your knowledge and belief, that chronology?
It is, yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Boyle, in questioning the previous witness, noted that there was also detailed notes of AR provided by the school separate to this inquiry chronology. We don't need to bring that up, but the reference for it is LCC 001580.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hodson, yours, if I may be allowed to say so, is a commendably careful and detailed statement. And because of that, you will understand, I hope, that your statement stands as part of your formal evidence. It will be published in due course by the inquiry on its website. And it's not my role today to seek to go through the entirety of your statement. And if I attempted to do so, I wouldn't do justice to it. What I do want to do is to pick out some key themes for it. And as I do so, to pick up some areas of challenge in certain respects and clarification in others, but just going to key themes. So please don't be perturbed or think that the detail in your statement is being overlooked. Do you follow?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And may I start, please, with your professional background? You tell us in your main statement, let's just have it up briefly, LCC 001773 at page 2. So you tell us that you've been the head teacher of the Acorn School since, was it the 15th of July 2022?
It was, yeah.
And as we've heard already in our evidence, you had significant previous roles relevant to this. So from 2016, I think you were the Special Education Needs Coordinator, is that right?
Yes.
Along with being Deputy Head Teacher.
Yeah.
But you also, for periods relevant to the inquiry, acting head teacher for periods in 2019, 2020, 2021 and 2022.
Yes.
And we don't need to go through the detail of that, but it looks as though your predecessor as head teacher was absent for some period and you stepped up to do that.
Yes, that's right.
In fairness to you, it looks from the materials that we have seen, including your statement, is this right, that when you were stepping up as acting head teacher, you also had to carry your existing responsibilities?
Yes, yeah, deputy head and Senko.
Yeah.
We also had quite a significant COVID outbreak in school.
Yes, of course.
In September 2020, where we lost half the staff.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't come back, and that impacted on kind of all of our capacity in school at that time.
I follow you. You're very softly spoken. Do try to keep your voice up.
Yes, I'm trying to work out which mic to speak to.
If you speak loudly in the middle,
Okay.
it'll pick it up fine, I think.
Okay.
So you're wearing two hats at those times. No one was standing in for you as deputy head teacher and Senko when you were acting head. You had to do both.
No. Yeah.
Thank you. As the Senko, I think you were responsible for carrying out assessments of pupils with special educational needs, and that included, did it not, making requests for statutory assessments where appropriate and necessary, and carrying out annual reviews of pupils who are on EHCPs?
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. The Acorns as a school, our previous witness obviously touched on that a little bit in the questions asked by my learned friend Mr. Boyle. We've heard there's a pupil referral unit. Just give us your own description of it, just as a thumbnail sketch, if you would.
It's quite a small school. We have quite a challenging cohort. We serve pupils who, for one reason or another, can't attend mainstream school. That might be because they're permanently excluded. It might be because they're on intervention from mainstream with the intention of going back. It might be because they've got special educational needs, and because we're a small setting, we meet their needs better than a big mainstream school.
Thank you. You speak in your statement of the fact that pupils who are deemed to be very high risk are taught off-site.
Yeah.
At any one time, no doubt that will vary, but what sort of percentage would be taught off-site?
At the moment, I've got about 10 pupils off-site.
And when they're taught off-site, would that be principally at home, or are they sometimes
No,
in public spaces that are safe, that are taken just for that
some
one pupil?
Some of them are at the local library, and some of them are we place with a specialist provider
Thank you.
who have their own premises.
So paragraph 290, we don't need it on screen, but for your note, but you tell us in your statement that the number of pupils that leave Acorns to go on to education, employment or training is well above the regional and national average for pupil referral units.
It is. We want to stretch our pupils academically, and we want to make sure that they go on to be to have good lives and live lives as adults and integrate within society. That's our aim of what we're doing.
Was that the case in 2020 and 2021 as well, or is that a more recent improvement? Has it in recent years, including when AR first came, has it always been performed?
We've always had academic rigour. We've always pursued that. One of the pupils, for example, who was there when AR was there and is referenced in the chronology, is now at university. So yeah, we work with the pupils, and we put a bespoke offer in most parts to make sure that we're trying to meet need.
Thank you. I want to turn then as a first theme to look at your early engagement with AR and aspects of your impression of him. Mm-hmm. We turn to page 4 of your statement, please, paragraph 13. Page 4, paragraph 13, please. Bottom of the page. You're speaking here of the admissions meeting at the school.
Yeah.
That's the early meeting, the first that you would have had. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you tell us in paragraph 13 that it proved to be a memorable meeting. And you explain that your typical approach would be that you would ask them directly about the exclusion and what had led to it. And you say you do that not least to try to get an understanding of the pupil's degree of contrition or absence of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true.
And what happened when you asked AR why he had brought a knife into the range?
Well, it's not unusual for us to have pupils who come to us because they've brought knives into school, into other schools. But his response was to use it, and he looked at me directly when he said it, and I believed him. And that's the only time a child has ever said that to me, before or since.
And you are a teacher with, would this be right, extremely wide experience of dealing with very challenging children in Lancashire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Including violent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as you go on to explain, it wasn't just the literal answer to use it, but also that he was so devoid of any remorse when he said that to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You also say, relevant to matters that I'll come on to, that you were struck by the fact that AR's parents didn't flinch at AR making that comment.
Yeah, so they weren't upset, they weren't talking to him, they weren't saying, kind of remonstrating with him or asking him to give more information or anything like that. They just completely accepted what he'd said without flinching.
Over the page in paragraph 14, you also tell the inquiry, is this right, that you got a very clear early impression of AR having a sense of injustice at what had happened at the range?
Yeah.
Is that right?
That is right, yeah.
One shared by his parents, did you sense?
Yeah, he saw himself and his parents saw him as the victim of the incident rather than the perpetrator. So they saw that he'd taken the knife in because he was being bullied, and that was kind of a reasonable response to do that, and that he was the victim and that should have been taken into account.
And you tell us in paragraph 15 that it was your immediate impression on first meeting AR that he may be on the autism spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, that's based on my experience as a teacher. I'm not a doctor.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not asking that as a
Yeah.
clinical diagnosis,
Yeah.
don't worry,
Yeah.
you make that clear in your statement.
Yeah.
But as an educator, this is the
Yeah.
phrase that you use rather than a clinician.
Yeah.
That struck you on your very first meeting with him.
Yeah, we have a high proportion of pupils at the school with ASD or ASC. And I've got SEN training and SENCO training, so I can see the traits when they're in front of me.
Thank you. After events as awful and appalling as those of July 2024, it's easy perhaps to see through things through the lens of what we now know.
Yeah.
And I don't ask you this for a moment suggesting that there's any dishonesty in your part. But these early impressions, they were the literal impressions you formed at the time. That
Yeah.
They're not coloured by the after events, are they? This is what
No.
you genuinely thought at the time.
I sent an email out to all the staff on meeting him to say that he was very high risk and he would have to be searched, that he brought a knife in, that he didn't show any emotion or remorse at it, and that I thought he was on the spectrum and that we'd have to start chronology because we were going to make a referral in, or he was seeing the GP to get a referral in to support a diagnosis. But the email to staff was done the same day.
And having gone to almost the start of your statement, slightly oddly, I want to go almost straight to the end as well. Could we look at paragraph 277, because you come back to this in your reflections. It's page 74, please, Sarah. And you say this: AR was a highly unusual pupil,
Yeah.
the most unusual I had experienced during my career. At Acorns, we educate and support young people with a range of complex needs. However, I have never come across a pupil like AR. He was incredibly difficult to read and had an unusual energy and was unpredictable. There was a sinister undertone, and it was difficult to build rapport. He had no respect for authority and generally a lack of respect for other pupils and staff. He was insistent that his views alone were correct and everyone else was wrong. There was never any sense of remorse or accountability for his actions. Those features are, in my view, extraordinary. Yes?
Yeah.
And again, obviously, you have written that to this inquiry with the knowledge of the dreadful events of July. But that, again, was that genuinely your impression from AR's time at the Acorns?
That was genuinely the impression. We started a chronology very early on because he was so unusual. And you asked Mrs. Lewis why it wasn't on the CPOMs. When staff put things on CPOMs, they can't then go back in and see them unless somebody alerts them to it. So we had a shared chronology that everybody could look at and enter to, so that we all had a shared understanding of what was going on, because his presentation was so unusual. His interactions with staff were quite challenging. His interactions with the other pupils were very challenging. And it was just, I was trying to work out exactly what was going on and trying to get help from other agencies to explain what we were dealing with, really, and get some help.
Thank you. If we could look at page 7 of your statement, please. You tell us in this section of the statement that notwithstanding those first impressions and how striking they were and how concerning they were, the very early stages of AR's time at the Acorns led effectively, my summary, to him integrating into, at least to some extent, normal classwork. So
Yeah, he was in class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he would have started, I think, with a different teaching arrangement and only doing a small amount of hours, and that was gradually being increased.
Yeah.
And then if we look at paragraph 21,
you indicate that he was assessed as being ready to join Willow Group. Willow
Yeah.
Group would be that one, a small group of...
Small group. I think
small
there was
class.
about 5 or 6 of them in the
Yeah.
group at the time.
And he started officially in that, initially 2 hours a day, and then preparations were made for that. And as we see at the bottom of the page, timetable increased from 2 hours to 4 hours, is that right?
Yeah.
And on the 15th of November, the bottom of the page, Miss Evans further advised AR's father that his timetable would be increasing so that he would remain in school for lunch,
Yeah.
leaving at 1 p.m. So you've got, up until that stage, the middle of November, a process of
period.
moving him in, transitioning him into
Yeah.
something that would approach more normal classroom
Yeah.
teaching, albeit small classes
Yeah.
and reduced hours. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's what we do. We start them slowly so that they can have a look at us and see how they fit in,
Yeah.
and we can have a look at them, and then we build the time up.
So the very early integration, not of itself problematic.
No, there was some. We were concerned about his presentation in terms of how he interacted with staff and other pupils, in that he was quite. There wasn't much interaction at all at that stage. And we had a couple of weeks where he was very quiet, kind of watching everything that was going on. And then it started to escalate quite quickly.
Thank you. In the context of that, before I come to other matters,
Yeah.
you say that throughout, in terms of mental capability and academic capability, that in general terms, AR did not have learning or cognition needs. He was an articulate youth.
Yeah. His barriers were social and communication rather than academic.
So, in fact, quite intelligent,
Yeah.
but consistent with what was later diagnosed as autism, very literal, I think, in his
Yeah,
thinking.
very literal, yeah.
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 We then see, and you map it out, and again, I don't intend to go through it all, but you map it out, starting with the 15th of November, that there was, from the middle of November through to the attack in the range of the 11th of December, a clear escalation in AR's behaviour. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And we don't need to turn it up, but again, with striking language, in paragraph 65 of your statement, that you say that you actually had a visceral sense of dread.
Yeah, I felt like he was building up to something. I felt like something was going to happen, and that this kind of level of agitation and the kind of the direct challenges to staff and the way he was with the other pupils, it felt like every day it was building and building and building. And I was aware of that he'd taken knives into school, and I was worried that he was going to bring something to our school and do something similar at our school. And in the end, he didn't. He went to the range and did it, but that's what I feared was going to happen at our school.
So the very concerning attack of the 11th of December
Yeah,
was exactly the sort of thing about which you'd had a visceral dread.
yeah, absolutely.
And again, you tell us that is not after the event reconstruction, do you?
No, that's all
That's how you
recorded
felt
at
the time.
Yeah,
And as well as the initial impressions, you've set out details in relation to it. So the 15th of November, searching for school shootings, and you give details of subsequent events as well in the pages that follow. So just to take some examples, paragraph 37, the top of page 12 is the nunchucks one about which Miss Lewis was asked. 26th of November, you're passing on concerns to be very vigilant,
yeah,
especially if any tools or blades were being used in lessons. As a result of that, did you also note, as part of this escalation, the same sort of concern as had happened at the range, in the sense that AR would claim that he was being picked on or bullied by other boys.
We knew that that was a trigger for him, and we asked staff to be really vigilant and to kind of really keep a close eye to make sure that didn't happen, or that if it happened, we tackled it straight away. And there wasn't anything. He was complaining about being bullied by a particular boy. When we looked at it, it's because the boy had told him to put his apron on in cookery. I think he saw some interactions with other pupils as bullying. That was the way he perceived it, than it actually being the case.
So we should understand, and again, that there may be reasons for this in terms of things being perceived in a certain way and taken literally.
Yeah.
But something as trivial as another boy saying that, whether it's for cookery or for what it was,
put your apron on.
art and design, put your apron on, he perceived as bullying.
He did, yeah.
And when concerns were raised about that with his parents, did they understand that AR was misunderstanding and misinterpreting the actions of others in school?
Not at all, no. Their reaction to that was that he was being bullied in school, and the actual phrase that Dad used, which is why I was fearing that something was going to happen in our school, was that he was being bullied like the boy in the other school.
Yeah.
And that was the phrase that I thought, something's going to happen here.
And that's a phrase I think that you have quoted both in your statement and quoted at the time, including later on as being the source of your concern, that you saw the pattern that had led to the bringing knives into school at the range repeating itself. Because in fact the parents' response was, this is what happened in the previous school. When in fact it wasn't actually happening, objectively speaking, at all. Is that
No,
right?
that's right, yeah.
And I asked some questions of Mr. Crugine about this at the range. Everybody will have an understanding that those who bully in any environment may well do it in an insidious way, so that it is not witnessed, and done in a deliberate way to wind people up so that those in authority do not see it, and it's difficult to prove. How confident are you that, objectively speaking, AR was not being bullied at the Acorns?
I'm very confident. We're a very small setting. There were 5 pupils in his class at most and 2 members of staff. So if anything had been said or there was any bullying going on, we would hear it. We monitor every interaction. We monitor them. They're supervised constantly. That was one of the things he didn't like about coming to our school, and that Dad didn't like about coming to our school, was the level of monitoring is completely different than it is at a mainstream.
The weekly reports, I think, of behaviour were objected to. There must be, though, even in a small referral unit, there must be occasions where the pupils are with each other without immediate supervision. Maybe much less than in another school.
Much less than in a mainstream school. They're very heavily supervised. They don't even walk to lessons, from one lesson to another, without somebody with them. They're supervised at lunchtime. The only time they're not heavily supervised in the taxis to and from school, actually, and even then we can ask the taxi drivers and check that nothing's going on in the taxi.
Thank you. And so, without going to more individual incidents, you would have a very high level of confidence that this is not a missed bullying case.
Absolutely not. What he was doing actually was starting to target some of the staff, and then some of the other pupils were sticking up for the staff because they're very loyal. So he was, saying things about Miss Heaton, the ICT teacher.
I was going to say, I think Stephanie Heaton.
Yeah, because he objected to the fact she'd stopped him searching for certain things, and the other kids were sticking up for her and saying, well, you shouldn't have been looking at things you shouldn't have been looking at. So whether he then perceived that as bullying, but I wouldn't say that was bullying.
No. And Miss Heaton taught,
ICT.
and the particular tension with her arose why?
Because of those internet searches in her lesson where he was searching for school shootings and she stopped him, but he actually stood right in front of her face like that and shouted at her, and the other children didn't like that.
So a teacher appropriately supervising and seeking to prevent inappropriate material being looked at, then treated in a threatening way.
Yeah.
And to the extent that other pupils may have challenged AR, it was in that sort of a context, put your apron on or don't speak to
miss like that. She's
miss
sound.
like that.
Yeah. To use the Liverpool vernacular. Yeah.
And again, it's a statement, obviously, that you've taken some care to explain matters. And one of the things that you also say in your reflections, page 74, please, paragraph 276. A very unusual child, someone I was concerned about. At times I was very concerned about him. But you say I never imagined that he was someone capable of carrying out such a vile and evil attack. I perceived AR to be a risk in school and in the home.
Yeah.
We were concerned that he was someone capable of being radicalised, and he was vulnerable. He was so socially isolated that I could not conceive of the idea that he might attack a group of strangers, let alone young children. And the tragic events are so far removed from what I would have associated AR with in terms of risk. And were you really there alerting to the fact that although you were deeply concerned about AR, the risk that you perceived would be of revenge attack on those who he had perceived as having slighted him, whether teachers or pupils?
An attack on one of his peers is what all our risk assessments were around.
Yeah.
So during the whole time he was with us, that was what we were on the lookout for, was him perceiving that somebody had bullied him and carrying out some sort of attack in revenge.
But on your evidence, it is not an exaggeration to say that you feared and indeed foresaw the sort of attack that happened on the 11th of December.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to turn as my next topic, again, just to pick out, we've touched on it a little bit already, but just some central themes in relation to AR's parents. Within that early admissions meeting, I think you explain, if we can go back to page 4, paragraph 14, please. I'm so sorry, page 5, it's my fault. But at that early meeting, AR's parents were of the view that he was a quote-unquote good boy who never did anything wrong, and that any issues with his behaviour were someone else's fault. And that chimes, I think, with the summary that you gave earlier in your evidence, that parents too perceived AR as being the victim.
Yeah.
Was that both parents, or one more than the other?
Most of our interactions were with Dad. We didn't have many interactions with Mum. She was working full time, and Dad did the child care and the liaison with school. So most of the interactions we had were with Dad.
If we could look at LCC 30482, please. We just note the date of this, the 2nd of March 2020, so quite early on in the chronology.
Yeah.
And we see that it's going to Anna Jameson and Julie Hamill at the local authority copied to Mum from Dad. And he's saying that he understands that Ms Jameson was going to meet with the Acorn School this week. Then in the matters that are set out, if we just scroll down a little bit and look at paragraphs 2.3 to 2.5, that's perfect there. Thank you, Sarah. We feel Acorn's school is not suitable for AR's learning, thriving in the medium and long term because, and then various points made, but 2.3, the practice of recording students' behaviours all the time has caused AR to feel paranoid and insecure. We feel the fighting incident at Acorns was preventable. Was there a fighting incident?
There was, I disputed this all the way through. There was an incident where he'd said to one of the boys, "I hate Miss Heaton." And and the boy had said to him, "Don't say that about Miss Heaton, she's sound." And then AR had said to him, "I hate Miss Heaton, what are you going to do about it?" And they pushed, one of them pushed each other back, and then teachers got in the middle.
Right.
So it wasn't a fight.
Yeah.
There were no blows thrown, or it was kind of a scuffle, if anything.
Yeah. In the scale of things, pretty trivial.
Yeah.
And in truth, started by AR.
Yeah.
There is an adult supervising the pupils at all times, and in fact, teachers did step in, you say?
Yeah.
However, it's difficult to keep away from aggressive environment at the Acorns. And AR has come to Acorns being a victim of bullying in the first place. What's your take on that?
I don't know that. I know that Mr. Cregeen thinks that there was no significant bullying at the range, but I can't really comment on that because that's outside my.
The suggestion that there's an aggressive environment at Acorns, obviously by definition you have a challenging cohort of pupils, but is it objectively right to refer to it being an aggressive environment?
Absolutely not. It is a PRU, but we work on a relational approach to behaviour. We get to know the kids really well. We build trust up with them. They trust us. We are the key adults. We're very often their safe place, and there are always 2 adults in a room and supervising at all times. So there's not fighting. There aren't chairs being thrown across classrooms. There's a perception of a PRU as somewhere where that is the case.
Yeah.
But if you came to our school, it's actually really calm and really quiet most of the time.
Staff numbers, about 100 pupils, staff numbers in total?
30.
So a massively different ratio than a mainstream school.
Yeah.
2.5, we believe that the environment at Acorns and resulting frustrations have contributed to AR returning to the range high to find the student who bullied him. AR went back to range only a few days after getting involved in a fight with a student at Acorns.
And that's the scuffle. Yeah.
We'll obviously ask Alphonse about this, but can you summarise for us, obviously you have a view as being the deputy head teacher at the time, but how accurate or inaccurate is this as an impression to hold, do you think, if one was trying to look at it objectively?
This email was presented at a strategy meeting on the 4th of March, so we hadn't seen it in advance. It was kind of tabled. And I remember being really quite upset by it because I didn't feel it represented us and what had happened at our school at all. And it was being presented to other professionals as if that was the case.
So, very different from how at least you genuinely and honestly perceived the reality to be.
Yeah.
And also, and it's why I went to the top of the email, this is being sent to a different group of professionals.
Yeah.
And on its face, with content that is highly undermining of your school and your approach.
Yeah.
If we go to page 5 of the same email, sorry, maybe paragraph 5, my fault. Just over the page, please, Sarah. Just have the main text. in March, still being said AR is a good boy, modest and respectful, not a risk to himself or to others.
Yeah, this is after the attack at range. Yeah.
Not an exaggeration to say on a fair assessment, somewhat devoid of reality.
Yeah.
It has taken persistent taunting and bullying from a group of young people to get the worst out of him at Range High School. He now understands more the consequences of the actions he took. Did you perceive that he'd understood the consequences of the actions he'd taken?
I think he understood the consequence of the actions he's taken as it related to him, but not as it related to others. So there was no... So for the boy that he attacks, who was actually a friend of his, he had no remorse or understanding of the impact of what had happened to him, because he said, well, he got compensation for it. And that was his AR's understanding that actually...
So he was all right.
That was fine, that it was okay. But so the consequences for him were that he wasn't at mainstream and that he was being held at the Acorns, which he, perceived to be a school where he shouldn't be because he's the victim, but he didn't understand the consequences for anybody else.
And then in terms of parents' approach, paragraph 6, with a TA teaching assistant with him in the classroom and nearby during other times, AR shall flourish in the mainstream school because of the following. Strongly feel he has autism, which affects his learning, quality of schoolwork, etc.
Yeah.
He's bright and able, but has low concentration. He can get himself into trouble by talking back without thinking it through. All of this results from low confidence. Doesn't like sport, prefers to chat, dislikes rough play, loves to respectfully chat with others. He can take banter and name calling. Was that your experience?
No.
And he understands when somebody is not being mean. Was that your experience?
No, because even the experience of, well, put your apron on was seen to be mean.
However, when someone dislikes him, he can notice it and is not afraid to retaliate.
Yeah.
Again, was that a realistic assessment?
That was a running theme through a lot of our interactions with Dad, was that if somebody does something to AR, he will do it back and he will do it harder. And that comes up over and over again.
And the concept that the right place at this time for AR to be moved to was a mainstream school with a dedicated teaching assistant. Was that at all realistic?
Not at all. He'd been permexed for taking a knife into school 10 times. Then he'd carried out an attack in that school that was premeditated, and that was the bit where I felt he was really high risk, is that he'd phoned a taxi the day before to arrive at the same time as our taxi so that he'd get into it. He was equipped with a knife and a hockey stick, even though Mum was supposed to be hiding the knives. There was a level of planning that had gone into it for us to take him back to... So once he's on our roll, he can leave us in 3 different ways. We can permex him, or we could take him to Fair Access Panel and ask another mainstream school to take him, or he can go to a special school. There are only 3 ways we could move him on. We could not have gone to a mainstream school with that background and say, can you take this child?
Yes.
And he wouldn't have coped.
So realistically, mainstream school at this time, March 2020, was just not a realistic option.
No.
And you're saying AR wouldn't have coped?
No.
Would it have been your professional assessment that it wouldn't have been in AR's interests either?
Absolutely not. He hadn't managed at the range. So there's no evidence or suggestion to say he would be able to manage anywhere else, because the level of his barriers to learning around his ASC, about his social needs and all the rest of it, are not mainstream characteristics, and not... He would have felt like he was on a different planet in a mainstream school.
Maybe that one should be careful not to be one-dimensional about this, because it's a complex picture that you paint in your statement.
Yeah.
And if we look at
paragraph 105 at page 30, please. So bottom 2 paragraphs, please, Sarah. You do also explain, though, that for much of AR's time at Acorns, the school had been able to manage and communicate with AR's father well.
Yeah.
And for the most part, there was an open channel of communication. Acorn staff would always contact AR's parents, mainly his father, where there were incidents of concern, and generally in relation to AR's education provision, EHCP, involvement of other agencies, and so on. Acorns were not afraid to challenge AR's father and push back on unsubstantiated allegations regarding how Acorns were managing AR and how he was being treated by staff. AR's father was open in his criticism of Acorns in circumstances where the school felt that this was unjustified.
Yeah.
We only ever tried to do our best, and so on. So I think you're saying there that you did sense that in some senses, and for, at least for times, there was still communication going on. There was an open channel, even if it wasn't easy communication.
Very early on, we decided to try and build up the trust between ourselves and AR and Dad by putting Mrs. Allred in place. And we decided that we'd adopt a strategy of kind of good cop and bad cop.
And that was where you were the bad cop.
I was the bad cop.
If there was difficult communication to be had.
So if they had to do any challenge or go to difficult meetings or anything like that, that was me.
Yeah.
But in terms of the day-to-day, building that trust up and communications about, you know, how's his medication going? Is he coming into school? How his lessons are going? All of that sort of stuff. That was Mrs. Allred, and that's how we managed him.
Yeah.
And that's how we managed Dad as well.
Over the page, we've got it on screen now, actually, 107. We've touched on this already, but you observed that AR's father could be manipulative of professionals and would rely on their goodwill and concern for AR to influence the decision making. And you give some examples of this, don't you? So I think one is paragraph 108, that you felt that Miss Steed was used to advocate for an education provision that was wanted for AR. This was the Pine Fields.
Yeah.
But that wasn't a starter at all because he wasn't eligible for that because it wasn't a Lancashire school. But you felt that Alphonse somewhat manipulated CAMS to get CAMS to start arguing for that in circumstances where...
And also to kind of minimise the risks in the EHCP.
Yeah.
And another example would be that email that you showed from March 2020. That's him using the professionals to make his arguments for him.
And I wanted to touch on the EHCP as an example. Now, you give quite a lot of detail about that in your statement, but can we take it relatively shortly by looking at a version in track changes?
Yeah.
It's LCC 30132, please, Sarah. I'm hoping that our system shows the track changes. I think it should. So this is the EHCP, and could we please go to page 6? I think it should be the top third that we want on page 6. So if we just have the top third highlighted, please. So social and emotional and mental health. Educational psychologists reported that when in school, AR had little or no interaction with other pupils and so on. There are concerns of occasions where AR would say and do things which have been described as sinister, crossed through, and amended to inappropriate.
Yeah. So the sinister refers to the school shootings, searches, the fascination with violence, the graphic detail. That is sinister. Even the planning and the premeditation around the attack that he carried out.
And in an attempt to make this an agreed document, taking quite a lot of evidence quite shortly, is it right that
my words, not yours, but somewhat against your better judgment, you ended up agreeing to these being taken out, but you were not at all happy about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the next passage is one that struck through completely. AR can also appear to be cold and calculating, and when in meetings with staff, did not appear to be concerned about the seriousness of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. And does it now strike you? Thank you. Does it now strike you as being of concern that a document that is a very important document for planning, selecting the appropriate school and guiding the provision there, in effect had information about risk to others taken out?
Yeah. I did manage to keep the section in that said that any school dealing with him would have to carry out a risk assessment and do some work with him around understanding consequences of his actions on himself and others. That stayed in. And that to me was quite key.
Thank you. If we look at paragraph 240, thank you, Sarah, that can come down. Back at the statement, please. Paragraph 240, it's at page 66. Paragraph 240. This is the bus incident.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to this in a different context. But I think you were alerted, or the school was alerted, to the bus incident because there was an op in compass referral, so you got the information through from the police?
Yeah. We originally knew he'd gone missing because I think it was, I can't remember if it was mum or dad phoned school to ask if he was with us, and we told them to ring 999 because he was a vulnerable person.
Yeah.
So we knew he'd gone missing. We then contacted Dad, who said he'd been found but didn't tell us under the circumstances. Yes. And then we got the Encompass report.
I was taking it too shortly. Initially, you're aware because there was a phone call about where he was. But in terms of the fact that AR had been found with a knife in reference to poison, I think that came about through the Encompass referral.
Yeah, we weren't told that by anybody else other than the Encompass.
What you say about this in paragraph 240 is that Mrs. Allred later contacted AR's father to ask if AR had returned home and was advised that the police had located him. However, no further information was provided. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so, although you came to know from the op in compass referral that AR had been found with a knife and had made reference to poison, when the school contacts Alphonse R, he to your understanding, withheld that information and just indicated that he'd been found?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, seeking to avoid matters being one-dimensional, you go on later in your statement to reflect that you had concerns that AR's father at times may have becoming fearful of AR.
Yeah.
Paragraph 237, sir.
Thank you.
And at paragraph 280 in your reflections, that a sense that they had lost control of AR.
Yeah. It started from about January 2021 when we were told by Yacht there'd been an incident at home, and then over the course of 2021 there was an increasing number of incidents to the point where we agreed with Dad that we would text him in advance to let him know we were going to phone him so that he could speak to us privately without AR being there.
And so you say in paragraph 280 that he ruled the home, and in the end you think that his parents were frightened of him and afraid of asking for support and afraid of divulging the extent of their problems.
Yeah, I do believe that, yeah.
On the other hand, if we look at paragraph 111 on page 32, forgive me for one moment. Forgive me, that's a false reference. It's paragraph 110 at the top. I'm so sorry. Same page. The issues with AR's father were not confined to him minimising concerns. They went further. And AR's father would endorse and justify AR's concerning behaviour, often in the presence and openly criticising the school in front of AR, thus undermining our authority. And you say in relation to that, it was hardly surprising that AR had no respect for authority.
Yeah.
And does that mean that in front of you or others from the school, with AR present, that Alphonsar would be directly critical of the school?
Yeah. The third prevent referrals are a really good example of that. So he had spoken to AR about it, and they'd agreed that it was wrong for the school to make that referral, and that we were treating him like an enemy of the state. And that was at the point when we did ask Dad not to share the referral with him, and he did.
One of the issues with which the inquiry must grapple is whether, in relation to AR's parents and Alphonsar in particular, what was happening was a perhaps misguided over-accommodation,
Yeah.
perhaps to an unusual extent, but wanting their son to do well, feeling that academic attainment was important to them, culturally important to them, and minimising wrongdoing and not setting boundaries.
Yeah.
A complex mix of those sort of factors on the one hand.
Yeah.
Or on the other hand, whether it extended to, at times, being deliberately deceitful and wrong and malign. Are you able to help us in relation to that?
Do you mean Dad or AR?
Well, I'm going to ask about Alphonsar
Right, okay.
to separate it out. Did you
Yeah.
feel at times that there was deliberate deceit, or was it more a complex combination of the former? And if you can't say, you should indicate.
I just think he saw things very differently than us. So there was, after we made the third prevent referral, there was a very long email, I don't know if you've seen that, on the 27th of April, where he goes through all of our failings in great detail. But his perception of what we did and why we were doing things was so skewed and so out of line with what we were trying to do to support AR, that I'm not sure if it was deceit or whether it was just a complete different view or understanding of what we were doing and why we were doing it.
Thank you. And in relation to Mum?
Mum was kind of almost quite distant, quite arm's length from what was going on with Dad and AR. I would say almost disassociating from it, kind of letting them battle it out between themselves and not really getting involved. That was my perception anyway.
Thank you. Before we break for lunch, I'd just like to deal with the topic next of information sharing with the range. If we look at paragraph 10 on your page 3, please. You say there that AR was enlisted on the enrolment at Acorns on the 17th of October, having been permanently excluded from the range on the 10th of October. And if we just go over the page, the referral was received on the 14th. It's the normal procedure. And then you set out what was in the PAT in paragraph 11. Should we understand, though, that that's all that was received at that stage?
Yeah.
And would you have expected to receive more at that time?
I would have liked to have received more. I would have expected to see the head teacher's report, which would have given us details of the incident, of what had happened. But it was a very, very fast turnaround. So So he'd only been excluded, I think, on the 8th, and we'd got the paperwork through on the 14th. So that was all we had at that point. So we didn't understand the level of risk he presented at that point.
And as you may now be aware, that the Range High School didn't have CPOMs, they had an alternative system, but you hadn't received their CPOMs equivalent, their detailed safeguarding log.
No, not at that stage, no.
You may have heard some of the evidence about this. So Mr. Kajin says in relation to that normally it would be school to school that information would be provided, but here it had to be different because they didn't know initially who it was going to. And he thinks, in part based on the contemporaneous records, that he sent it to the local authority. And in fairness to him, his email back to you said, we did send this to the local authority some weeks ago. Mr. Turner seemed to suggest that it should still be school to school. Can you help us in relation to that at all? You were obviously the recipient, you hadn't received it. Do you know what, inverted commas, went wrong on this occasion?
I would say that happens all the time. So what usually happens is that we get the information from pupil access team. We don't get the information from the school for a permanent exclusion. So, and that information can take some time to trickle through. So we might get it in 3 or 4 different emails with different information on before we've got the whole lot.
Thank you. While that happens all the time,
it's not great.
Is that not a concern?
It is a concern.
Especially for a pupil referral unit, you'd want to have the safeguarding information there as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Would you agree, we don't need to turn it up again, but we know that you emailed in the context of your mounting concerns, the email of the 21st of November, and that's where one of the places where you mentioned same pattern, he's now saying, and parents raising the same pattern as I explored with you earlier. Would you accept that very promptly after that, the next day, the Range did then provide their safeguarding information?
The information that we got from the Range and the working together with the Range was excellent at all times. That wasn't where it fell down.
No. Is there a recommendation or a solution to that? You'll have an understanding of how the tech works between schools, but it does seem to be not perhaps necessarily in this case with this exchange of information, but it seems an obvious risk area if safeguarding information isn't getting through.
It's because we don't put them on roll until they have their admission, and then we can't load the CPOMs on until they're on roll. So it's a kind of chicken and egg thing. But that's why we value the head teacher's report so much. So the head teacher's report will tell us not only what the incident happened, that they've been permanently excluded for, but all the measures they've put in place before that and any safeguarding concerns. So that is our kind of information bundle before we get the CPOMs. So that's the bit we need to see early on, really.
Thank you. Just before we break, we try having on screen, please, LCC 001560. And if we try on page 2, please. That's the 27th. You referred to a detailed email listing the concerns and in relation to the prevent referral and matters of that kind. And I'm not going to go through this, but I think that the head, Mrs. Eccleston, has, in the reply, has put into bold some quite carefully, no doubt, worded responses to the long list of concerns that Alphonse raised at this stage. Was this the email that you had in mind as the further example?
Yeah.
Well, I brought it up, so we don't need to go through it, but that's what you were referring to.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Very grateful. So I'm going to move to a different topic now, and I wonder if that would be a convenient moment.
It certainly will, Mr. Moss. I'm in your hands as to how long we have, given the list of witnesses for today.
So if I'm looking in part at the excellent stenographer, is 140 too short?
There's a nod. 140.